There's a common saying that as long as you hold fast to your ambitions, life will find 1,000 ways to help you reach your final destination, regardless of your starting point. That is also an objective factor that affects our progress, and in Eamon's case, that saying couldn't be more true. Eamon Drake was a pure-blooded country boy. He had just managed to make it to the capital, Axia, after receiving an invitation to be a teacher at the prestigious Amonit Academy. While he was full of enthusiasm for a bright future, he was accidentally roped into being a porter. After hauling things around for a while, he overheard the news that the school had gone bankrupt long ago. The reason was that the headmaster had made some bad investments. While he was still stunned, Eamon met a shabby drunkard sitting in a corner. He was planning to pass this job off to the man and then pack up and go back to his peaceful village. However, the man's identity was not so simple. He was a veteran teacher at Amonit Academy. Mistaking Eamon for a book thief, he made up for it by inviting him to his office. He even kindly explained the general situation to Eamon. Specifically, the royal family had issued a direct order for its suspension. Everyone else had already packed up and left, so he was the only low-tech one to blindly show up here. As for the office the man led Eamon to, he wished he had never come. Everywhere he looked, there were piles of empty liquor bottles, and it smelled like it hadn't been cleaned in years. He flew into a rage, socked the old man, and stormed out. Remembering the expectations his hometown had placed on him, Eamon felt even more disheartened. His father had spent a huge sum of money to secure this position for him. But now, it was all over. To save his family from drowning in debt and turmoil, Eamon was determined to fight as long as there was a glimmer of hope. Even with only 2 students and 2 teachers left, he would try to salvage the situation. The first student, Boris, also came from an ordinary background. To be blunt, he was poor, just like him. The second was Khloe, an international student from the Kingdom of Iran. And just like that, Eamon's grand ambition of building more connections went down the drain. These students couldn't even fend for themselves, let alone be a meal ticket for him. But he was used to hardship, and with his kind nature, he still decided to take care of the 2 kids. Thanks to this, he also got to meet the last remaining teacher at the academy, the swordsmanship instructor. He relayed a message from Headmistress Anarin, telling him to report to her directly. The moment they met, Eamon was deeply impressed. She was an elf with a refined aura and a graceful demeanor. In her hand, she held a half-read book. After the greetings were over, the headmistress thoughtfully asked him which was better, Incanter, George, or Stella Lack. Thinking she was testing his abilities, Eamon, though confused, tried to make a random guess, but he immediately regretted it. The moment he chose Testlog, Anarin went all in, betting 10 gold coins on it in her betting magazine. What Eamon had thought was merely a book of knowledge. What left him even more speechless was when she clarified that this wasn't horse racing, but snail racing, a type of race that was currently very popular. The cogs in Eamon's brain whirred as he had a revelation. The academy went bankrupt because Anarin was obsessed with snail betting, throwing all the operating funds out the window. Eamon, seething with rage, gave her a piece of his mind and demanded to know why. Why did Anarin make such a foolish, absurd investment? It was only then that she confessed her desire to grow dragon bananas to make money. And yet, she hadn't even considered the difference in lifespan between humans and elves. By the time the bananas turned a profit, a human's lifetime would have passed 12 years ago. Backed into a corner, Eamon had no choice but to shoulder the fate of Amonit Academy. He pursed his lips and adjusted his tie outside the door. "My name is Eamon Drake." Anarin's voice was dejected, her ears drooping. "Come in. What does this foolish elf have that you need help with?" Eamon clenched his fist lightly and narrowed his eyes at her. "Is she mad?" He placed a hand on his chest and began. "I've been thinking about your investment. As the headmistress of a prestigious academy, you wouldn't spend so much money on racing. Snails just for a personal hobby. If you truly bet that money, then I'm sure you spend it for the future of this academy. Am I right?" Anarin broke out in a cold sweat, nervously twirling a lock of hair. "Of course." Mr. Eamon bowed deeply. I was so foolish not to realize that, and for shouting in your face like that. I sincerely apologize." The other person turned away, letting out a small, fake cough. "I'll let it slide this time. Just be more careful from now on." He looked at her with sincere, sparkling eyes. "Besides, I've become a little interested in racing myself. Since this is quite popular among wise elves who have lived for a very long time, It must be a tradition that's considered an art form. Anarin waved one hand excitedly. She joyfully grabbed his hand. In that case, Professor Ammon, let's go watch together. He froze, a bit stunned. Huh? Watch what? The snail race, of course. The 5 elves from Anarin's group happily went into the forest. Elves are known as sacred and beautiful beings who live in villages where the world tree is located. Could that image be? In reality, the 5 of them had grim faces, chugging booze and roaring fiercely. Was that just some rumor someone made up? Snail warriors, we believe in you. Jury Jiu, leave him in the dust. Stella, you're so fast. Hanaslag, come on, please. Amon sat amidst the group, closing his eyes and covering his ears tightly against the screams. They aren't elves, they're forest monsters. Incantor has stolen my heart. Hanaslag, give it your all. Anarin's eyes widened, her pupils contracting. Go! A soft voice called out. Excuse me, headmistress. A girl turned to him shyly. Professor Amon. He grimaced and asked, Yes, that's me. By the way, when does it start? The snails on the ground were crawling slowly along the path. It's already started. Why the blank face? I don't see any difference. Anarin shrieked excitedly. Nonsense! 2 snails, one black and one white, gritted their teeth and strained as they crawled along the path. The elf's perspective, Hanaslag is trying her best. Amon's face darkened, his mouth agape in astonishment. Anarin clutched her head and screamed, She's been overtaken! 2 unremarkable snails were neck and neck on a tree root. The human's perspective. Who overtook who? The 5 elves were drinking and screaming wildly. Jury Jew is so fast. Just a little more. Don't lose, Ammon. Ugh, so boring. Resting his chin on his hand, I want to go home. Hanaslag, just do your best. The announcer shouted loudly. The contestants today all seem to be in excellent condition. It's going to be very difficult to predict who the winner will be. This is a continuous struggle. He frowned, crossing his arms in thought. All right, this match. No one can predict what will happen next. The 3 snails on the tree crawl bit by bit. They're so slow. Is this even going to end today? We are eagerly awaiting the sweet fruits of our contestants' sweat and tears. They don't have sweat and tears. Ammon let out a long, bored yawn. Contestant Hanaslag isn't like he was at the beginning. He seems to be falling behind. He squinted his eyes tiredly. The strongest, Hanaslag. You're the best. Ugh, so tired. A picture of a purple-bodied snail was taped up. A few hours later. Look, this is the snail that finally won, Anarin said with a delighted expression, clasping her hands as she recounted its brilliant white appearance as it climbed the tree. Its image is still seared into my mind. Ammon, sitting opposite her, was skeptical. You won? You bet on a different one, didn't you? Yes. He furrowed his brow, stroking his chin in thought. So, these were the contestants who participated in the snail race. These numbers must be the betting odds. She pointed to the pictures and introduced them to him. These ones are Jujitsu and Statlac. You know why I had my eye on those 2, right? Ammon gave a wry smile, thinking one thing but saying another. Of course not. You're really sharp. He pointed to a picture of a black-bodied snail with a gloomy face. But I think I like this one, Anarin said regretfully. Hanaslag can't win. It's the weakest one. Ammon spoke up, his words making her eyes widen in surprise. Then you have to bet on it, because being the weakest is sad, isn't it? The black-bodied creature, under the stares and pointing fingers of others, gritted its teeth and struggled to crawl on the track. Hanaslag is also a professional, one who entered the race through rigorous training. However, it's underestimated and looked down upon. The reason it can achieve good results is because of those psychological factors. However, Ammon's eyes were firm and serious as he defended it. That slowness can be overcome by the hope and trust from others. With trust, we can always find a way to make Hanaslag a champion. Besides, the betting odds are 500 to 1. If you're a member of the Great Forest's race, then you have to bet big. Anarin's eyes lit up. You're right. She clasped her hands excitedly. Then I'll try betting on it. Ammon frowned, squinting in annoyance. What? Who's crying? The 4 little fairies angrily ripped up their betting slips, wailing in fury. I even bet all my emergency funds on this. Damn it. What awful luck today. How could this happen? He turned to look at them. Is the race over? Beside him, Anarin buried her face in her hands, sobbing. He thought to himself, Seeing her cry like that, I guess this academy is done for. Ammon clenched his fist, a sly smile spreading across his face. Everything is going according to plan. After the academy goes bankrupt, I can go home without any punishment. He covered his mouth, feigning a kind smile to comfort her. Headmistress, please calm down. Things have already turned out this way. What else can we do? Let's just go back to the academy and discuss the future. In the worst-case scenario, the academy closes. Suddenly, an announcement rang out. The snail that won the race is Hanaslag. Ammon's face darkened, frozen in utter shock. What? Anarin's tears turned to cries of joy, her face beaming as she looked up at the sky. But the announcement rang out again, making Ammon clutch his head and tremble in disbelief. In a surprising turn of events, only one person predicted that Hanaslag would win. She jumped up in excitement. I'm so happy! His face turned a dark purple as he opened his mouth to scream while the announcer's voice continued. And for that reason, Hanaslag has requested to shake hands with the one who believed in it. The person who bet on Hanaslag, please come to the World Tree. Thank goodness I chose Hanaslag. Ammon turned deathly pale, his mouth agape, completely stunned and soul-crushed. A memory of the black snail approaching him, hugging him joyfully, and taking a picture with him flashed through his mind. It requested to shake hands? Anarin said cheerfully, a handshake and a hug from a contestant. What an honor. He looked at his reflection in the water. Headmistress, are you familiar with the concept of an elf who dies young? She pursed her lips, puzzled. He knelt on one knee by the lake, taking out a towel to wash his face. By the way, what do you plan to do with the 5,000 gold coins you won today? She crossed her arms, thinking. It will be used to run the academy, of course. Thank God, I thought you were going to keep gambling. It's an investment. I am still the headmistress of the prestigious Amonit Academy. You think I'm addicted to gambling, aren't you? Anarin held the bag of money, bowing her head in thought. I want to return the academy to its golden age. Now that the aid from the royal family has been cut, we have to raise operational funds ourselves to attract students and professors. She suddenly turned to ask him, do you understand what I mean? Ammon draped the towel over his neck, squinting with a smile. You mean, you're planning to keep investing, huh? Yes. He gritted his teeth and screamed, this foolish elf is completely insane. Anarin clutched the bag of money, scowling as she raised her voice. What? Did you just call me an idiot again? Ammon closed his eyes wearily, dabbing his face with a towel. I agree. The academy can't be rebuilt through conventional means. Look, your idea to invest isn't wrong. The problem is where you're putting the money. Be more careful this time. Only then can your dream become a reality. A shop with a wooden fish gate and a hanging lantern. A gold trading post. Ammon pointed to a blueprint. The Reconstruction project. Professor Ammon, what about this one? It looks promising. He looked at her with serious, narrowed eyes. You don't think so? Really? Look at where the temple is being built. Newly developed territories, that means they lack infrastructure. The heretics might go berserk, and you could even face opposition from the local people. Anarin's eyes widened in understanding. I see. As expected of Professor Ammon. He chuckled softly, pushing himself up from the table. You flatter me. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. He called out softly, getting the owner's attention. Sorry. His face was pale and weary, and he gasped for breath. I will invest 2 gold coins in the Blatant Temple construction project. Ammon's current assets. 3 gold coins. Yes. Ammon smirked, his mind racing. The immediate return might not be high, but this is a promising long-term investment. There are many devout followers, and since it's a temple built specifically for Blatant, the god of war, the future benefits will be immense. I'm not sure if she knows that yet. Asterisk, but I can't let her succeed. Anarin raised an eyebrow, puzzled, as he squinted his eyes and laughed cheerfully. In such a hurry, Professor Ammon, you seem to have recovered completely. She cheerfully handed him the book. By the way, no matter how I look at this, I don't understand a thing. I think you should handle it, Professor Ammon. He looked at her doubtfully. Huh? You want to entrust this to me? Without you, I wouldn't have even had this opportunity, so I trust you, Professor Ammon. He pressed his lips together, pretending to read the book seriously while laughing inwardly. In that case, I'll give you a chance to go bankrupt. Ammon's attention was drawn to a picture in the book. This one's good, Anarin scowled. King Mango, do you even know what that is? And you call me an idiot. This is a high-quality crop, just like the dragon banana. A group of workers planted saplings while singing to the seeds. He replied calmly, "I know it takes 2 years to take root and 5 years to bear fruit." She asked, puzzled, "Then why?" Ammon closed the book on the table. "Think about it," he said in a stern voice. "Do you think the royal family wants to keep a collapsed academy around?" Honorin's ears drooped sadly. He explained seriously, "That's why I'm against the dragon banana. 15 years is too risky, but the mango only takes 7 years, just half the time of the dragon banana. We only need to endure the royal family's pressure for 7 years. Her eyes widened as she stared at him blankly. "But I heard 7 years is a very long time for someone like me, right?" "That's true, so won't you have to endure it as well?" Outwardly, Ammon looked thoughtful, but inwardly he was gloating. "Endure it? I'll use this opportunity to escape the academy and retire. Take care, everyone. For a human, it's no big deal." Asterisk. Honorin was stunned, staring blankly as he reached his hand out to her. "But you'll protect it until the very end, won't you?" Ammon spoke righteously. "So this investment will be for you and the academy, headmistress." Moved, Honorin covers her face, her eyes welling up with tears. "Professor Ammon," he quickly suggested, "then let's decide on the investment amount." She smiled happily, wiping away her tears. "We'll invest 4,900 coins and keep 100 gold coins to maintain the academy. Total assets, 5,000 gold coins." Ammon clapped his hands in satisfaction, his voice cheerful. "Just as I predicted. I'm truly surprised by your decision. Headmistress, she's fallen right into the trap." Early in the morning, he was talking to a middle-aged man in a conical hat. "A king mango farm? Really?" "Yes!" The other man's tears fell like rain as he endlessly squeezed a small mango. "Heavens! The king mangoes on the tree glistened in the sun. The heavens have helped us." Ammon narrowed his eyes, looking down at the ground. The next morning, in front of the Ammonite Academy. "What the—" A large gift box with a blood-stained envelope was placed neatly outside the academy's gate. "What the hell is this letter?" In the corners of the envelope, a line of small text was written, "To those who invested in the Blatton construction project. To the esteemed investor, the head of the King Mango Farm." A middle-aged man with a full beard, holding a bottle of liquor, staggered down the road with a flushed face. "That was amazing, just as I expected. That bar owner really knows how to pick a good distilled liquor." He looked down at the ground and stopped abruptly when he saw a figure. "Hey!" The man squinted drowsily, his expression hazy. "Why is a black dog sleeping here?" He pulled a paper-wrapped bundle from his pocket and dropped it on the ground. "Here, have some snacks." The crumpled pieces of paper hit Ammon in the face, making him flinch. His face darkened and he gritted his teeth, his expression tight with rage. "Oh!" The other man laughed loudly and staggered away. "I earned 10 good deed points today so I can have one more bottle, right, Teacher Ammon?" Honorin worriedly knelt down to help him up. "Oh my God, Teacher Ammon! Why are you sleeping here, Teacher Ammon? There's a pile of smelly scrap paper and squid tentacles next to you. Why is there spoiled seafood here?" Honorin frowned, her face scrunched up with worry as she looked at him. He must be so hungry. He clutched the envelope, his hand trembling. A moment earlier, "What's this?" "Greetings, dear investor. I am the owner of the King of Mango's farm. I sincerely thank you for your love and for donating such a large sum to us." Ammon's jaw dropped in astonishment, his face darkened as he trembled. "We have developed a new cultivation method that allows us to shorten the harvest time to just 1 year. In return, we plan to transfer a portion of the profits for the next 15 to you. We would love for you to try the King Mango, the very first prototype produced for our formerly generous investor." Inside the paper box were 10 bright yellow mangoes. "May the path you walk ahead always be illuminated." He frowned and hastily tore open the other envelope. "So this is—" The grimy, yellowed paper was scrawled with words. "Notice to all investors in the Blotto Temple construction project. Due to reasons stemming from riots by followers of other religions, fierce opposition from the locals, and extreme unrest escalating between the colonial territories, the construction of the temple has been cancelled. The company in charge has also gone bankrupt. We sincerely apologize to all investors who participated in this project." "Cancelled? Huh? Don't!" His eyes rolled back as he clutched his head and screamed. "No! His whole body stiffened and fell backward to the ground. My 2 hard-earned gold coins? A glass of delicious, fresh mango juice was placed on the table. This is an Elven-style King Mango smoothie, made from the first prototype that just arrived. Anarin patted his shoulder worriedly. Teacher Ammon, you should have told me you were this hungry. He raised an eyebrow suspiciously. Feel what? What are you suddenly talking about? It's nothing, teacher, just enjoy it. Ammon tilted his head back and took a gulp of the mango juice. Mm-hmm. Then his pupils shrank in astonishment. This is so delicious. Ammon, dejected and miserable, buried his face in his hands. No way the mango business could go bankrupt. What a mistake. It's all over. That's right, Teacher Ammon. Anarin handed him a small bag. I'm giving you an extra gold coin as a personal bonus. You played a crucial role in the snail race and the success of the King Mango investment. He immediately brightened up, reaching out to take it. Thank you. Transaction successful. Her eyes shimmered with a pitiful look as she rubbed her chin, watching him. If I had the authority, I'd give you a little more, but I can't use the Academy's operating funds. As I please. Eamon's eyes widened in a furious glare. What? Who was it that poured 10 gold coins into the snail race, huh? He squinted and took another sip of mango juice. Anyway, it won't be easy for the Academy to go under now, because the funds are secured. I've been stuck here for 3 years already, so protecting the Academy is the better choice. Anarin frowned, struggling internally. But how can I protect a bankrupt Academy when not a single member of the staff has the right mindset? The Academy's fate depends on the headmaster snail, a gambler. A man with a goatee, his face flushed red, looking completely out of it. I only drink wine because it's delicious. Teacher 1, an addict. Next to him is a girl, sleeping soundly in a beanbag with her eyes closed. 1 hour of self-study. Teacher 2, a sloth. He slammed his wine glass down on the table. That terrifies me! The tavern owner looked at him with a pale, worried face. You're going to break the table. You'll break it! What wind brings a young man like you here in the middle of the day? Ammon, drunk, grimaced and clutched his head. I can't take this position anymore. From my superiors to my colleagues, they're all insane. My path to becoming department head is going to be a rocky one. Well, well. A man with a goatee and flushed cheeks, holding a bottle of wine, approached him. If it isn't the new thief teacher. Ammon froze, bewildered. We meet again. He didn't hear what I just said, did he? May I sit with you for a moment? The other man squinted, smiling, and came to sit beside him. If you don't mind this crazy guy. He heard me. The two turned to shake hands. Senior, thinking back, we haven't even properly introduced ourselves. My name is Amandrake. And I'm in charge of the magic class. The name's Mario. His hand was squeezed by Ammon until it was red, and he cried out in pain. He grimaced in anger. I don't care how much you hate me. But how could you try to crush my hand? He put on an innocent look and asked, What's wrong? What do you mean, Senior? I was just shaking your hand. By the way, is your name Marioa? It's Marion Zoom Doom. Eamon rubbed his chin and pursed his lips in thought. Marion Zoom Doom. I think I've heard that name somewhere before. He poured more wine into his glass. Why are you sighing so much? Are you trying to blow the continent away? Because our Academy's future is so bleak. Marion put a friendly arm around his shoulder. So, what do you think the role of an academy is? Of course, an academy is for educating students. Exactly. He squinted, his expression serious. As long as there are still students, the academy's future isn't bleak. Not 3, not even if there are only 2 kids left. Eamon's pupils dilated in shock as he stared at him. Senior Marion. Even when he's blackout drunk, he speaks with such profundity. He closed his eyes and sighed deeply. But it's still very difficult to run the entire academy right now. Just as I thought. If we don't have support from the royal family. Suddenly, a shout came from nearby. What is this? Model the young sailor competition, organized by His Majesty the Emperor. Some people are scoffing, saying this Humanities Academy has been on the verge of bankruptcy for a long time. But you're still putting this up? Take it down now, the other person grumbled, bowing. Yes, sir. Eamon pressed his lips together, his eyes following them. Wait. He stared intently at the poster featuring the king. The greatest challenge for the Ammonite Academy. Wutong is currently the suspension order from the royal family. So, What if we perform well in the competition organized by His Majesty? The Emperor's Young Sailor Competition? Registration deadline, registration location, eligibility. His Majesty has placed his faith in the youth. As the person was about to take down the poster, Amon hurriedly rushed forward. Maybe he'll even withdraw the suspension order. Please wait. Could you give me that poster? Night began to fall. You worked hard today. A few staff members stretched wearily. See you tomorrow. A server approached the owner. The table near the counter is cracked. Have you seen it yet, sir? The other man was stunned, asking doubtfully, Huh? What do you mean? That table was made to be crack-proof. A round, sunken dent was imprinted on the wooden tabletop. What kind of bastard managed to crack it? Amon pressed his lips together. There's still a little time before the competition. The two kids, Khloe and Boris, are practicing hard with their swords in the courtyard. So, I've decided to participate. Another colleague's class. First period, swordsmanship, training room. He approached a person resting snugly in a lazy bag. Hello, senior. The other person had their eyes closed, drooling onto a wooden crate. I have to sleep. It's self-study time. Sleepyhead, senior? I'm the new teacher, Amon Drake. I'm here to observe. What is your name, senior? She dreamily introduced herself. Slot Few. His pupils contracted in shock. Few? I've heard that name before. An image of a family full of cool, talented people appeared in his mind. Then he looked down at the person sleeping lazily and fell into thought. The head of the family is a great sword master, and their entire family is famous for producing descendants who are all expert swordsmen. In that case, this person must be a prodigy too. So why is she in a state like this? Amon, his face turning purple, poked her repeatedly. But, senior, you understand, right? Senior, you know it's still class time, don't you? I get it, Few scowled, shouting in anger. So stop poking me. She irritably crawled out of the lazy bag, tiredly rubbing her hair. This bankrupt academy doesn't look like it's going to pay me, so why should I teach? Ugh, my stomach hurts. You're incredibly strong, so how are you not getting paid? Few's pupils constricted, her mouth hanging open in astonishment as he placed a bag of money in front of her. Her eyes sparkled, looking at it greedily, even drooling, as she heard him speak. Here is Teacher Few's weekly salary. Transaction successful. Surprisingly, Slot's teaching skills aren't bad at all. Carrying her lazy bag, she went down to the courtyard to instruct them. Boris, put the right amount of force into your front leg. Yes, ma'am. Khloe, relax your wrist. It's a bit too stiff. He watched them practice and marveled. Yes, everything is fine. Amon suddenly noticed. But why does she keep clutching that sleeping bag? Is she hiding food in there? Few suddenly spoke up. You said you haven't been assigned to teach any subjects yet, right? He crossed his arms, rubbing his chin. That's right. The headmaster said it's best for me to observe for the time being. She glanced over at him. Is there any subject you want to teach? Personally, I'd like to teach history. I've liked history since I was a child. Few pursed her lips, thinking. A general studies course would suit him perfectly. He doesn't look very impressive, and his physique is average. Judging by his gait and posture, it looks like he hasn't had any martial arts training. Few asked quietly. You've never studied swordsmanship, have you? He awkwardly scratched his cheek. How did you know? To be honest, I've never really studied it. So, do you want to try? Are you trying to push your responsibilities onto me? Amon forced a laugh, a lump forming on his head. I'm very grateful for the chance to learn from a natural talent like you, senior. She scoffed. You should be. Learning swordsmanship from someone of the Few family will probably be useful. This disrespectful junior, I'll teach him just so I can scold him, and then I'll push this class onto him. The two of them pointed their swords at each other. Now then, let's fight. Wait, he asked doubtfully. Are you planning to fight while still holding your sleeping bag? The two kids also sat excitedly in the stands watching. Who's gonna win? How about a draw? It's just a light spar. Don't worry about it. Few smiled confidently. I'll beat this inexperienced little chick with just one hand. Before she could even get ready, Amon put his strength into a downward slash. His face was dark with killing intent as he raised the sword above his head. What the? How can he be so fast? Few, panicked and sweating bullets, struggled to block the blow. I can't even sense a trace of mana. She pressed her lips together, worried. Even so, he's just a fast rookie swordsman. No need to panic. Few leaped back, tossing her sleeping bag away. Amon lunged forward with a horizontal slash, making her stagger back in terror. Fio retreated and stepped on the sleeping bag. Damn it, my sleeping bag. She slipped and tumbled, gritting her teeth in pain. But Amon continued to charge at her with his sword, causing her to back away in fear and scream, "Wait! Time out! Time out! Stop! Don't come here! Don't get any closer!" The wooden sword stopped right in front of her face. I knew it would. Amon's face drew closer as he smiled faintly. "You should have put your sleeping bag down." Fio's pupils constricted, and she ground her teeth in anger. Veins were popping all over her face. "I don't want to use sword light on a civilian." Frowning and biting her lip, she drew a sword that blazed with a blue flame. "But it has come to this. I'll risk my own body. Is that sword light? A blade of pure aura, a unique technique known only to master swordsmen?" Fio got into a ready stance and yelled, "This is sword light!" Amon gave a forced laugh, rubbing the back of his head. "Really? This is the first time in my life I've ever seen it, so I wouldn't know." His first time seeing sword light? Correct. "Where on earth are you from?" His words caught her off guard, and the flames on her sword retracted. "I'm from the Drake territory in the Demon Mountains." "What?" Fio asked, confused. "Aren't the Demon Mountains supposed to be at the edge of the continent? There are countries and territories there?" He raised his eyebrows helplessly. "That's what you're asking? It's not even really the edge of the continent. There's a plateau behind the mountains where a tranquil garden lies. That's why they call it the edge of the continent." Her eyes widened in shock. "So you've traveled 1,000 miles from the Demon Mountains just to get here?" Amon pouted thoughtfully. "That's right. Took about 2 weeks of walking, I think." "But it takes 2 weeks to get here by horse?" Fio asked doubtfully. "That area must be crawling with monsters, right?" Amon closed his eyes and rubbed his head tiredly. "My mouth gets sore just talking about it. They're a total headache. Every single day they're breaking the fences to get at the potato fields. Ogres, minotaurs, dragonutes." They stood facing one another, one asking, one answering back and forth. "What do you do with them?" "We kill them all." "What? Aren't we supposed to deal with them?" "Deal with them how? This instructor is terrifying. You said this was the first time you've ever seen sword light. It seems there are no knights where you live, so how did you handle them? Why would we need knights?" Fio's pupils constricted, her expression twisting in disbelief as she broke out in a cold sweat. "We'd die if we tried to chop them up with axes. Who in the world is this guy? And what the hell is his method for dealing with them?" Amon pursed his lips and stroked his chin, a look of confusion on his face. "Did I say something wrong?" Fio stared, her lips pressed tight. "Why are you looking at me like that, senior?" he continued. "I don't know what happened, but it's time for you to teach me swordsmanship." She rested her sword on her shoulder and abruptly turned away. "No, I will not teach you," Fio said loudly, turning to the students. "All right, let's all begin the lesson." "Yes, ma'am." Amon frowned, completely lost. What in the world is happening? Outside the lecture hall for Marion's magical theory class, second semester. "Now then, where did we leave off last time?" Marion smiled, beginning his lecture. "We finished page 21 of the magicology section, sir." "That's right, Boris. Excellent memory. Now, would everyone please open your textbooks? All right, then. So then, what is the key to a magic circle that controls the flow of mana?" Amon, sitting in a corner and taking notes, felt a strange sense of doubt. Boris slowly answered the teacher's question. "You taught us that it's located at the top point of the pentagram, which is at the heart of the magic circle." Is he really that good? Marion's cheeks were still flushed, but his eyes lit up with delight. "Excellent, Boris. According to the analysis of the great archmage Amagoto Molan, the man who developed and created this type of magic circle, the mana that flows around this circle is..." He walked with a slight swagger under the two children's admiring gaze. "It's a bit difficult to explain with just theory, so I'll show you all instead." "Oh, you." Amon sat to the side, watching with concern. "Is it all right for him to be using magic while he's this drunk?" Marion raised a hand. A stream of blue light appeared behind him, slowly forming into large magic circles. Amon's eyes widened and his jaw dropped in shock. "That's right. Now that I think about it, the name Marion Rundoom," he thought with suspicion. "I'm sure I've seen it in a newspaper before." Marion just smiled as the two kids gazed at him with admiration. "All right. Does everyone see this clearly? This is how this magic works in a real-world application." Night had fallen. A man in a robe, holding a staff, stood upon a pile of corpses, facing a high-rise tower. a mage connected to the notorious Magic Tower. In the final battle, he single-handedly annihilated an entire enemy fleet. The man had long silver hair. His cold eyes stare back. War hero. Marion Rundoom. Eamon compared the hero from the article to the drunk teacher before him, his heart filled with disbelief. That's what that article called him. His face is almost a perfect match for the portrait in the article, even if he looks a bit older now. Marion grinned, his eyes gleaming, and turned to the board. So that's why he can give such an amazing lecture while he's completely wasted. And from that, this shape is formed. Empty wine bottles lay scattered under the chair. He'd be perfect if it weren't for those damn bottles. He narrowed his eyes as something clicked in his head. At that moment, a hypothesis flashed through Eamon's mind. If he can teach this well even when he's drunk, wouldn't his lectures be even better if he were sober? He called out in a low voice, "Professor Marion?" The man paused his lecture and turned. "Is something wrong? Professor, I have something I need to ask you. Could you come with me for a moment?" Marion narrowed his eyes suspiciously. "What is it now?" "We just got to the best part," he winked, trying to act cute. "Just for a little bit?" But no matter how you looked at it, the professor was beyond suspicious. Just as he was about to refuse, Eamon quickly grabbed Marion's sleeve and dragged him away. "Why did you drag me out here when you could have just asked inside? I'm only doing this to protect your dignity, Professor. What you're doing right now is violating my dignity." "You're crazy," he scoffed, not forgetting to remind the two kids. "Are you calling me crazy, Professor? Where else are you going to find a junior as loyal as me? Everyone, use this time to take notes." "Yes, sir." Boris and Khloe were diligently writing when a loud scream made the boy jump, snapping his pen. The two kids broke into a cold sweat at the sound. The scream echoed from outside the door. "Why did you just punch me in the stomach? You have to respect your elders." "You're just middle-aged, Professor." Khloe and Boris, pale with fear, stared in the direction of the scream. Marion clutched his stomach in pain. "My stomach! It hurts like hell!" "I'm sorry, Professor." He rubbed his head, groaning. "A punch to the gut to sober up? I've never heard of such a barbaric method." Eamon followed beside him, bowing slightly. "I'm very sorry. It's how they do it back in my hometown." Marion wondered, "Who on earth taught you such a barbaric method?" He lowered his head and sighed softly. "It's what my father taught me. It's an incredibly effective method." His eyes sparkled as he laughed cheerfully. "Thanks to you, I'm completely sober now." "Really?" Marion held his book and cleared his throat. "Well then, let's continue with the lesson." Eamon smiled to himself, full of anticipation. "All right, it's time for you to show me what you can really do, Professor." And so, he awkwardly scribbled on the board, stammering, "The great sage Amagoto Molam doesn't know anything." "No, wait, that's not it. What is the foundation of human magic?" "No, or was it someone else's?" Marion broke out in a cold sweat, frantically flipping through his book. And so, Eamon's eyes widened in horror. No way. Can he only teach properly when he's drunk? He stood frozen in place with a blank expression. The apex of the magic circle. This point has a lot of mana. So what should you do when you have a lot of mana? If you make wine like this, you'll have a lot of wine. Eamon was horrified. What a bizarre situation. The two kids frowned, their faces pale, watching the flustered Marion. "All right, everyone, just wait a moment." He joyfully began to dance and drink. Eamon, as if muted, went crazy, clutching his head and screaming silently. "Don't drink in front of the students." Marion, his face flushed red, staggered as he held the chalk. "All right." Thanks to the magic circle created by the great sage Amagoto Molan, mankind's magic has developed by leaps and bounds. And there was another individual who helped develop this magic circle. That person's name was Joto Molan. Does the class understand? The two kids answered in unison. "Joto Molan." He drew out his words encouragingly. "Come on now. How can you not know his name? Anyway, it will be on the test. So try your best to remember it." Eamon's smile vanished, completely shocked to hear him say, "Great sage Joto Molan." Now, let's learn about the synthesis of magics that he helped develop and strengthen. Well, as long as he's teaching well, I guess it's fine. Marion sat amidst scattered wine bottles, dreaming and laughing foolishly. "Come on, a drink after class is the best after all." He suddenly called out in a loud voice, "Senior Marion, I have something to ask you." He recoiled in fear, hastily clutching his chest. "It's you again? Don't tell me you're planning on using that method again." Please, I'm serious this time. Ammon came closer and sat down beside him. Senior, are you Marion Zoom, the one who participated in the war? Marion's eyes widened as he looked over. You know of me? I've heard a lot about you. I'm sorry for being a bit rough earlier. He squinted his eyes, smiling smugly. I'm pretty easygoing, so don't worry about it, but my head and stomach still hurt a little. Model? That's not it. He purses his lips, displeased. Is he unhappy because he's chugging that liquor? Ammon picks up the book. I have a question about the last lecture. What's this? This is the reinforcement magic circle developed by Yamagoto. Marion purses her lips, her eyes wide as she listens intently to his question. The points of the star are the key, but according to Yoto's research, doesn't the efficiency drop by half if the mana flow is skewed? Amon takes a quill and draws a small square in the center of the magic circle. So if we use the points to create a square, we can simplify the magic circle and direct it towards the revised section, couldn't we? Marion thinks for a moment and asks, Have you ever studied magic before? He looks doubtful. My father is a mage, so I learned a bit of theory from him when I was young. He purses his lips, puts the bottle to his mouth, and scowls, lost in thought. If this report reaches the magic tower, he'll get a level 1 promotion at least. He could find the flaw just by looking at it after learning a little theory. And that's not even mentioning that he also found a way to fix it. Marion suddenly flares up. Hey, what do you know anyway? He jumps. Sir, you startled me, ma'am. He storms off. Well, I guess I'll be going then. Ammon anxiously reaches out, wanting to call him back. No, wait. He purses his lips and sits back down on the floor alone, deep in thought as magic papers flutter down around his head. What was that all about? The instructors and the quality of teaching for both swordsmanship and magic are good. He looks up, his gaze firm. But they still need special training. The system panel displays the images and information of the two kids, Khloe and Boris. I hate to admit this, but the kids' abilities are far weaker than the magic instructors. Archery skill level 1. No bow. History level 1. Common knowledge level 1. At this rate, they'll only get a participation prize. That in itself would be a miracle. Ammon chuckles happily. Besides that, he gazes blissfully at the tray piled high with food. This academy's cafeteria food is freaking delicious. It's amazing to get a meal at such an affordable price, especially with dishes I only get to eat on my birthday. He suddenly notices Marion and Phil eating nearby. Let's see, where should I sit? When the other two see him, they sulkily turn their faces away. To ease the awkwardness from before and strengthen my bond with the other teachers. Is this workplace bullying? Marion whispers. Still you agree, don't you? Phil scowls, taking a large bite of a chicken leg. He said he took down high-level monsters without learning swordsmanship or even using mana. If he learned both, he continues, I agree. He came up with a theory worthy of a high-ranking position just from learning a little from his father. If he were to study magic properly. The two of them glance at each other, understanding, then nod at the same time. Our positions, our ideal workplace will be in danger. Phil and Marion tap their utensils together, one holding a spoon, the other a fork. And that was the moment the Anti-Ammon Education Society was formed. Objective? Prevent anyone from teaching Ammon any skills. Khloe and Boris look up when they hear a voice. Hello, kids. Ammon smiles warmly, carrying his food tray over. May I sit with you? Of course, sir. He praises them in a soft voice. You both worked hard in class. You worked hard too, sir. Hearing this makes Ammon tear up with happiness. Yes, you two are the only ones who respect my hard work. Do you know about the competition that's coming up soon? Yes, we do. Ammon asks again, do you want to participate? Boris is stunned, his voice filled with doubt. Us, sir? That's right, it would be a good experience. And an experience like that would be unforgettable. He purses his lips and looks down upon hearing his suggestion. So, what do you think? Why not try experiencing new things? Before Ammon's attentive gaze, Boris speaks up, declining. I'll have to pass. The boy says resentfully, his hair falling over his face. There's no way I could ever compete with the nobles. A commoner like me. Ammon is stunned, his pupils shrinking in shock. Boris. There are many nobles in the Empire who were originally born as commoners. That's what makes them all great. He freezes, a silent alarm going off in his head. I've said too much. Boris, teary-eyed, clutches his chest and shouts, What can a commoner like me possibly do? He worries inwardly. Who would have thought that the student I considered the most stable would be this insecure? Eamon gently takes his hand. Boris, he consoles softly. My nickname when I was a kid was Ammon the Weak and Pathetic. An image of his younger self, with flaming fists and hands on his hips, arrogantly flashes through his mind. Actually, that's not it. My childhood nickname was Fire Fist Amon. With a single punch, I amazed the entire village. Teacher Amon's eyes are strong as he pats his chest firmly. But look at me now. I've become a teacher at the academy, right? Model. Not just anyone can become a teacher, you know? Boris, his eyes welling with tears, stared at him in stunned amazement. It's not like, in this world today, it seems anyone, whether it's a dog or a cow, can become a teacher. He frowned and asked, But you're from a noble family too, aren't you, teacher? Ammon chuckled. Even so, isn't it a big deal that I became a teacher here? His arm trembled, hesitantly taking the chicken leg from the tray to offer it to the boy. Besides, if you enter the competition and try your best, maybe you can become a noble too. If you become a noble, you'll get to eat delicious food every day, just like me. A childhood memory of crying while eating potatoes flashed through his mind. No, the main dish at my family's estate was potatoes. Eat up, son, it's not like you have any other choice. Boris lowered his head, chewing tightly on the chicken leg as a wave of anxiety hit him. Becoming a noble. What do you think? Don't you want to become a noble? He bit down hard on the meat, his eyes resolute. I want to become a noble. Ammon smiled in satisfaction, nodding. You're an ambitious student. I'm glad you've held on to that resolve here at the academy. I'm glad sacrificing that piece of meat worked. He then said aloud, There are no classes this afternoon, right? I'll give you all some special lessons. I'll also teach you history and general knowledge. On other days, too. Boris's eyes sparkled as he looked at him. Really? If you want that, you'll have to work very hard. The boy happily affirmed, Yes, I'll do my best. Ammon turned to the other child. Khloe, you too. His dark eyes shifted to a worried Boris as the girl beside him sat trembling. Teacher, Khloe is a little scared. To be more precise, she's afraid of people. Ammon smiled gently, his brow furrowed as he softened his voice. The competition will have hundreds, even thousands of people watching. What should I do here, Khloe? You don't have to force yourself. I want to participate. With frightened eyes and trembling hands, Khloe looked up resolutely. I want to overcome my fear. On the outside, Ammon smiled gently, but his heart was full of cunning. That's right, Khloe. You too will become a stepping stone for my success. All right, then. Rest up after lunch and meet me in the training room. The two kids happily agreed, Yes, teacher. At that moment, neither Boris nor Khloe realized that as the three of them sat laughing and talking, Ammon's shadow loomed behind them like a wicked demon, extending its claws toward them, a path they chose. Early in the morning, Ammon, dressed in sportswear, ran forcefully across the field. All right, everyone. 1, a sound body. 2, a sound mind. 1. Khloe and Boris, trembling and panting, ran after him. In a sound body, 2 holds a sound mind. 3. Phil and Marion dropped their concealment and watched the three of them. What lap is this? I think around the 89th. Khloe and Boris collapsed onto the ground, exhausted. Teacher Ammon, I can't run anymore. It's hard. He stood to the side, feigning concern. What, you're both tired already? Yes. Ammon gave a relaxed laugh, taking the towel from his forehead. These kids have less stamina than I thought. All right. Well then, we'll rest for a bit before we move on to our magic theory lesson. The three of them returned to the classroom. And so, we have proven the existence of magic. Khloe and Boris grimaced, stroking their chins as they listened to his lecture. Do you all understand this part? He shrugged at their silence. Teacher Ammon, it's too hard. What do you mean hard? This is basic magic theory. The boy sullenly raised his hand. I'm sorry. There's nothing to be sorry for, but why do you find it so difficult? Marion gripped his flask, grinding his teeth as he trembled with anger. Damn it! That's no way to teach. Phil, next to him, frowned and whispered, He'll hear you. Ammon gave another relaxed laugh and turned to erase the board. This is the same theory I learned when I was their age. They're so strange. All right, everyone, we're going to clear our heads a bit on the training field. Then we'll come back to the lecture." The other two teachers stared blankly. "What?" The two kids' legs trembled and gave out. "1, in a sound body. 2, holds a sound mind." Ammon ran behind them, blowing a whistle and shouting, "I can see your legs. Faster!" Khloe and Boris ran, tears streaming down their faces. 1, in a sound body. 2, holds a sound mind. The two kids, exhausted, vomited on the ground and then lay face down, motionless. Ammon called out loudly, "Everyone, what, are you kids tired already? You haven't even run that much. Kids these days are so weak. And here I thought these brats would be my salvation." Suddenly a hand clapped him on the shoulder. "Teacher Ammon." Marion smiled as he and Phil walked up behind him. "What are you doing?" Inwardly, Ammon ground his teeth in frustration, but he kept a cheerful smile on his face. "I can't believe he's only just now showing up to class. The teachers here are so irresponsible. There are no classes this afternoon. I'm helping the children with their physical training." Phil clutched his bag and moved closer. "You're making them run 100 laps for physical training?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "How did you know they were running 100 laps? This field is too small. 10 laps wouldn't be enough for proper training." Ammon smiled smugly, waving his hand. "And I also taught them magic theory." Marion twisted open the cap of his flask. "You mean theology? How did you know? Anyway, it's the foundation of magic, isn't it? So I was laying the groundwork for them." "Looks like I need to lay a groundwork for you." "What? What did you say?" His face darkened as he raised the flask to his lips. "You are putting these children through grueling training." Phil pursed his lips seriously. "Something that even an adult couldn't endure. We have to put a stop to this immediately." Khloe and Boris, their faces pale and gaunt, their limbs trembling, continued to mumble non-stop. "A sound mind in a sound body. The relationship between Asher and Mana, Joto Molan." Ammon waved his hand dismissively. "I'm going to continue my class. You two can leave." Before he could react, Phil furiously leaped into the sky with his light sword. Marion gritted his teeth, his fist crackling with magic. The massive, heaven-shaking sound sent a flock of birds scattering in fright. A revised mission document. How could you even think of making them run 100 laps when they couldn't even handle 10? Ammon's eyes widened in doubt. "But I used to climb mountains while carrying firewood. To me, Demon Mountain is basically my backyard. I used to climb it all the time when I was a kid. This should be enough firewood for today," Phil warned him seriously. "Don't judge others' stamina based on your own." He spoke earnestly about his father. "Besides, it looks like you need to relearn the basic theory of magic. Who taught you that, anyway? My father used to read it to me before I went to sleep, just like a fairy tale." "Amon, my boy, you know," Marion said in a low voice. "Not everyone has a brilliant mage for a father like you do. Boris is a poor boy from the countryside, and Khloe is a lady of high birth. This is an academy, a place where students from all different backgrounds come to learn. But you're applying teaching methods based on your own personal standards." With a firm, serious gaze, Marion reminded him, "Can you really call that a proper education?" Ammon listened, dazed as he spoke. "You have to understand what society calls the standard." Marion smugly stroked his chin, closing his eyes and thinking, "Man, that last line I said was so cool." He pursed his lips and shot the old man a glance. "He sounds like a rambling drunk." Ammon rolled his eyes and rubbed his chin in thought. "But I have to admit he's not wrong." Ammon stood teaching the class while Marion sat beside him, drinking. "This is a special curriculum designed for Ammon's competitions. All right, what is the main theory of Ronan Wesley?" Boris answered while scribbling. "The definition of the 4 elements, sir." Marion would teach magic, and Ammon would test what the students had learned. He followed closely behind, watching the two kids run while Phil kept watch, napping nearby. A sound mind and a sound body. All right, everyone. Now it's time to learn swordsmanship with a relaxed mind. Ammon will build up the kids' stamina, and Slack will teach them swordsmanship based on that stamina. A lump on his head throbbed with pain. That Ammon. His training sessions are more by the book than I thought. The two teachers, both sporting lumps on their heads, gathered to complain. "I know, right? I know. Run until you're on the verge of collapse, then swing your sword. Get scolded for carelessness. It's the perfect way to build stamina fast." Khloe and Phil were practicing their swordsmanship diligently. All of these children are from noble families, so many have complained about their kids running around looking so undignified. "Come on, everyone. Swing harder. We never would have imagined ourselves doing something like this." Marion frowned. So Ammon adjusted his teaching methods to suit Boris's and Khloe's backgrounds. Phil pursed his lips. But even if they were nobles, Ammon would still treat them the same as anyone else. Just look at us. Ammon raised his voice, signaling, "All right, the next training session will be a 1-on-2 match against your teacher." You were right. He hits way too hard. On the field, he clutched his head and dodged as Khloe swung her sword wildly, but it looks like he's just toying with them. I can't seem to hit you, can I, sir? Too slow. Besides, who would actually hit their teacher? After many days of basic stamina training, Ammon smiled and clapped his hands. All right, everyone, time to move on to some real combat training. The boy stared and then chomped down on his arm. The girl scowled, her hair practically standing on end. Boris, don't bite. Khloe, you're not a cat. The two students had turned into actual little monsters. Outside the wooden guard post, a drowsy Marion staggered and pointed at a guard. Hey, look who it is! Isn't that Lord Tomato? The Viscount trembled. It's Tomato. Ammon was at a loss. This guy's a Viscount? What are you doing here, my lord? The Viscount laughed heartily, pulling open his coat to reveal a gleaming gold medal on his chest. I'm here for the sake of the children's education at this academy. You haven't heard? That's the crest of the Martis feeder family. Tomat grimaced. All right, come on in. Inside the chilly, dusty arena, a man in iron armor stretched and winked at them. Just call me Beat, a soldier of armor Brad. Beat? Khloe and Boris looked worried. Everyone! Today we'll be having a sparring session with this proud city guard of armor. The boy's eyes lit up as he raised his sword to volunteer. I'll go first. Ammon happily ruffled his hair. All right, Boris, that's the spirit. He grinned, his eyes crinkling, and bowed to the soldier. Please be careful with him. Don't worry, Beat said, cheerfully shaking his hand. I'll go easy on them. Boris stared intently, gripped his sword, and leaped. No. What our teacher meant was that you're the one who needs to be careful, Sir Beat. Caught off guard and unable to defend, the man yelled out, What? Beat raised his sword just in time to block the boy's attack. With a dark expression, Boris landed effortlessly. Ammon laughed in delight, clenching his fist in excitement. Yes, that's it! Boris's calf muscles tensed, veins bulging. All those laps around the field had increased the kid's speed many times over. He lunged forward, taking the offensive against Beat. The Martis feeder family tactics taught by Slack. But the most important skill is still lacking. The kid's form is solid, though. He widened his eyes and gritted his teeth in disbelief. This kid is faster than I thought. It must be because he's so small. Pitt focused on the boy's waist. There it is. I see an opening. In a flash, Boris vanished into thin air. A strike to his waist. That was the bait. Pitt gritted his teeth, watching the boy fly toward him with his sword raised. What is with this kid? Boris pursed his lips, his eyes sharp and cold. He coolly raised his sword and rained blows on Pitt's head, making him cry out and cover it. Wait, not my hair, you brat! Hey, kid, I told you not to hit me in the head. Hey, stop it, damn it, stop! Pitt knelt on the ground, his head bowed. I give up. Cheers erupted from around them. Young master, you were amazing. And you call yourself a warrior? Boris's eyes shone, his heart filled with joy. I beat an adult. A real warrior. Ammon proudly rubbed his nose. See? The training paid off. Great job, Boris. He smiled cheerfully, walking over and patting the little girl, Khloe, on the shoulder. It's your turn now. You can do this, right? Yes, Teacher Ammon. The little girl clutched her sword and slowly walked into the arena. Khloe's eyes darted around frantically, her face pale and dizzy. She shrank back, hugging the sword tightly as she felt dozens of eyes staring at her. Terrified, Khloe collapsed to the ground. She curled into a ball, hugging her head and trembling, which made the soldier worry. Little girl, what's wrong? The little girl was on the verge of tears, her eyes squeezed shut as she hugged her head and trembled. Just as I thought. I can't do it. There are too many people watching. Too many people are looking at me. Ammon called out softly, Khloe Lewis, are you okay? The girl arched her back and looked up. Teacher? He gently patted her head. Relax. These people will only glance at you for a second and then look away. Ammon smiled gently. Just think of these strangers as something familiar and easy for you to handle. For example, your village grows a lot of potatoes, right? Just think of them as potatoes. Khloe looked at him with glistening eyes. Something easy to handle? Is looking at me? He put his hands on his hips reassuringly. So? All right, Khloe, are you feeling more confident now? The little girl stood up straight and pointed her sword forward. Yes, I'll try my best. Khloe pursed her lips, chanting in her head, They're looking at me. They're looking at me. The soldier in front of her seemed to be covered in a mist. Hey, kid, aren't you going to attack? Or should I make the first move? The little girl swung her sword forcefully at the soldier. To think that timid Khloe would actually dare to strike a stranger. Marion's eyes widened in amazement. That's incredible, Ammon. What did you say to her? Ammon smugly rubbed his chin. I didn't say anything special. I guess I just have a natural talent for teaching. It's in my blood. In that case, let me take that back. Khloe pursed her lips, her eyes cold as she raised the wooden sword high. The soldier laughed smugly and parried it. Oh, so scary. The girl quickly slipped past the soldier, whose face darkened as he gaped in shock. The wooden blade slammed hard into his waist, making him scream, My bones! Wait! The sword felt like it hit bone directly! Why do you keep hitting that exact spot? In pain, the soldier dropped his weapon. The girl let out a short breath and smirked. Khloe wins, that's why. From the stands, Marion and Ammon cheered with delight. Khloe, it's over! She won! You guys are my saviors. Bick held a sword facing Boris. From that day on, the students had to fight the guards every day. You're not allowed to hit me in the head, you hear? I don't want to. Ammon closely supervised the two kids as they practiced running. Khloe let out a wicked laugh as she wiped her wooden sword. That little brat broke my bones again. Ammon stood at a board, teaching the two students. The more confident they became, the more their skills improved. The day before the exam, Ammon put his hands on his hips and smiled cheerfully. You two have worked very hard. The two kids looked at him with sparkling eyes. So today, let's go eat something delicious. Professor Ammon is the best. What are we eating? Steak? Barbecue? The man's eyes narrowed with glee. We're going to the arena. Only the winner gets to eat well. Khloe and Boris pursed their lips, their expressions blank, completely thunderstruck. You can't do that, Professor! Inside the fighting cage, two fighters stood side by side as the audience outside roared. I bet 2 gold coins. Now I'm adding 1 more coin. If you lose, I won't be able to go home today. You have to win no matter what. Boris crossed his arms and pouted. I'm going to tell Professor Slot that you brought us here. 2 of your best dishes, please. Ammon shrugged. Professor Slot already gave me permission. I'd like to sign up and place a bet. By the way, let me tell you the rules here. The 2 fighters in the ring were grappling. The only rule is you have to use your bare hands. Yes, sir. Hit their weak spots, gouge their eyes, bite them, whatever it takes. Boris clenched his fists. But we've only ever learned swordsmanship. The attendant gave them the directions. Registration and betting are all done, sir. Hey, if you don't have a sword, are you just going to sit there and suck your thumb? His words left the boy stunned. Even in a competition, to do that. There's no guarantee they'll fight fair, you know. That's true, but... Ammon walked over and ruffled Boris's hair. He leaned down and reassured him softly. Don't worry so much. Just trust in what you've learned and in yourself. His lip quivered as if he was about to cry. Professor Ammon, I don't trust what you taught me. The man on the floor above swirled the wine in his glass, looking down at the teacher and his 3 students, Marion and Amon. Heh, this is fun. All right then. Now that we're registered, let's go find our seats. Are they students? Other than Viscount Jundum, I've never seen anyone else like him. He smirked slyly and took a sip of his wine. How foolish. This is no place for children. Boris nervously opened the door to the fighting cage. He grimaced, terrified. The match between Frog Fong and Boris will begin now. What do I do? He looks so strong. A huge, arrogant man covered in scars glared down at him. What's a little punk like you doing in a place like this? Boris clenched his fists and took his stance. A battle between a veteran and a mere kid. He remembered Amon's words. You aren't strong enough yet. Your mana control and your swordsmanship are still developing. He'd grinned, his eyes crinkling as he wiggled his fingers. So, I'm going to teach you a special technique. For when you're up against an opponent who's so strong, it seems like you don't stand a chance. Then you hit him where it hurts. Boris charged forward and kicked him right in the groin. The man doubled over in agony. My family jewels! My family. Guess he was all bark and no bite. Boris is the winner. Amon and Marion both went pale, instinctively crossing their legs. Khloe, you saw what Boris just did, didn't you? You just have to do the same thing.
Yes, Professor.
Eamon's face looked grim. All right, Khloe. I'll be cheering for you. After all, I bet 2 whole coins on you. The mysterious man angrily tightened his grip on his wine glass. Damn it. If this deal falls through because of those little punks... He turned to the man who had just lost and barked, Hey, get the troubleshooter Dixon over here. But Sir, Viscount Jundum is here. We have no official connection to Dixon. Not even Viscount Jundum can cause problems for us. The subordinate stammered, then flinched as he was yelled at, trembling as he scurried away. I'll go now. But sir, Dixon said he wanted to take the day off. What? Because he's already done for the day? The 3 of them, Eamon's group, gaped in amazement. Meanwhile, in the arena, Khloe, has she always been this talented? The girl in the ring slammed a fist into her opponent's ribs. He charged at her from behind. You little brat! Khloe dodged with an acrobatic backflip. Marion was stunned, wiping the corner of his mouth with his hand. And to think she's only just started learning the sword. But she's incredible at hand-to-hand combat. Eamon watched intently, chin in hand. I heard that Marquis Fitz developed his sword style by practicing hand-to-hand combat. In his mind's eye. In the ring, Khloe landed a powerful strike on her opponent's neck. With a fist, it's a devastating blow. With a sword, it becomes a piercing strike. I see. You seem to know a lot about it. Eamon and Marion huddled close to Boris, whispering, Did you learn swordsmanship from Khloe? I've asked her before, but she refuses to teach me, I see. So it seems Eamon's no-teaching alliance is still going strong, huh? He happily held up his pouch full of winnings. Khloe! Boris! You did great! The 4 of them cheered and left the arena. To celebrate your victories today, I'm treating you tonight. Am I included in that? I'm not treating anyone who makes more money than I do. The other man gritted his teeth. You can't just discriminate like that. Do you have any idea how much the drinks cost here? Those damn pests. I'd like to see them try and come back here. Amon opened his now empty money pouch. He trudged down the street, completely broke. These kids. Were they really hungry enough to completely empty my wallet like that? I'm completely out of money for today. Amon knocked gently on a door. Time to go ask the headmaster for a little cash. Amon, worried, burst through the door. What's wrong, headmistress? Anarin, teary-eyed, looked at him. Professor Amon, my mango king. He looked bewildered. I only have 1 left. What? An image of a strange, black-clad figure sneaking in to eat the mangoes flashed before his eyes. A thief? Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. Wait a minute. If I catch him, she'll give me a reward. At that moment, Amon could only think about what he stood to gain. Amon stepped closer. Don't you worry, headmistress. He leaped towards the person eating the mangoes. To Anarin's astonishment, he threw a powerful kick, determined to catch that damned thief. Professor Amon, wait! The person you kicked them right in the cheek. That person is... Allow me to introduce myself. The woman with short white hair sat with her legs crossed on the chair. I am Brest, the vice-headmistress of this academy. Eamon's eyes widened as he sheepishly knelt on the floor. And here I thought I was going to get a reward. What was that you said? I'm so sorry, vice-headmistress, I didn't recognize you. All right, as long as you know your place, Brest grimaced, holding up a piece of paper in front of him. I can't believe you got to experience so many things like this. Just as I returned. It was just a trip? Can't I even get a break? Her words felt like a dagger to Anarin's chest. I've been working my tail off running this academy and stopping that idiot from doing stupid things. Running it? Amon staggered to his feet. You mean, you've been the one running this academy all along? The other woman leaned back in her chair. Of course. How could I ever trust that stupid elf? Stupid? I'm not... But Brest's face darkened as she pointed to the ledger. What's this item in the accounting book? Temporary income? 5,000 gold coins? Anarin paled, terrified, and looked away. That's... Spit it out. Her crimson pupils scanned over Anarin, who flinched, holding back tears. Private funds, from winning a bet on the snail races, Brest shouted in anger. We were lucky to have that temporary income. But what if things hadn't gone our way? Don't you have any awareness that you're the headmistress? Sorry. Eamon sat off to the side, averting his gaze. The one who supported the betting and the race? She licked her lips, a wicked look in her eyes. If you plan on investing next time, make sure you invest in the Mango King's garden. Eamon's eyes widened in surprise. Why invest in the Mango King's garden? The other woman calmly continued reading a letter from the farm's owner. Isn't it a guaranteed profit? Well, yes, that's true. But right now, Brest handed the paper back to Anarin, the Academy's cafeteria is severely understaffed. Headmistress, sign this personnel document. Yes. Amon rushed forward and snatched the letter away. Wait a minute. We only have 3 professors and 2 students left in this academy. What's the point of hiring more staff? Don't sign it, Headmistress. A piece of paper was pressed against his chin. This, Brest said in a low voice, grabbing the top of his head, is the new hire. Low-quality meals just lead to a decline in morale. Shouldn't we boost mental well-being by improving the quality of our meals, What is she rambling on about? Amon pursed his lips and turned away. Wait a second. Looking again, he saw the table was littered with scattered letters. Everything is related to the cafeteria. Brest read the paper with a scowl. Our meat supply is also terrible. We need to find a new partner, Vice Headmistress. A gentle breeze blew into the office. What is it? Amon held out his hand with a slight smile and made his proposal. I want you to participate in the competition held by His Majesty as the lead professor, starting tomorrow. But... Brest gritted her teeth in anger. What? Why should I have to do that? Amon chuckled, his expression darkening. Why else? If you stay here, you'll turn this entire academy into a cafeteria. If you appear as the academy's representative, His Majesty might show us more favor. Amon grabbed the railing threateningly. Brest, terrified, quickly tried to stop him. If that's the case, Headmistress, with all due respect, Vice Headmistress, I'm begging you. Please, we can't do it without you. Are you insane? I get it. Now get down from there. Please, I said I get it. Anarin stood to the side, deeply moved. Professor Amon, I never realized you were so dedicated to us. Brilliant fireworks exploded across the blue sky, their light washing over the massive stone castle below. Pieces of confetti fluttered through the air, heralding a momentous day. In front of the castle gate, a large poster was hung, clearly stating, the Emperor's Youth Competition. The Emperor is cheering for the youth of the Empire! From on high, a voice echoed across the square. Thank you for showing up on this glorious day. The festival scene continued. Amandrake, carrying a sack on his shoulder, thought, the Emperor known as the most democratic ruler. King Amonis stood high above. Dressed in a splendid robe, a heavy crown placed upon his head, he raised his fist high, his expression ecstatic. His declaration rang out decisively. Let the competition begin! An image of the Emperor's Youth Competition appeared, clearly printed on a raised poster. Above it was a portrait of King Amonis with a stern gaze. Amandrake thought again. The Emperor known as the most democratic ruler? This picture must be photoshopped. Boris appeared behind Amandrake and gently tugged on his shirt. Professor Amon Amandrake turned his head in surprise and asked, What is it, Boris? After thinking for a moment with a worried look, Boris replied to Amandrake, It's nothing, sir. Amandrake smiled. All right, then. Fireworks continued to burst across the blue sky, the lights weaving together to form giant figures in mid-air, sketching out a face wearing a crown. A wide smile spread across it, and a soft laugh echoed. Ah, the image in the sky changed. The lines of light reconnected, this time revealing a large figure with a raised fist, its massive body in a theatrical pose, as if basking in the attention of everyone below. Just how much of the national treasury did he spend on this? The fireworks display kept changing, so this is what they use our tax money for, huh? A glistening, delicious-looking meat skewer appeared. Boris opened his mouth wide and began to eat. Amandrake watched the 2 children happily enjoying their skewers. Is it good? The 2 kids answered in unison, It's delicious! Of course it's delicious. It's ridiculously expensive, Amandrake thought to himself. Khloe happily offered her skewer to Amandrake to try. As she did, her shoulder bumped into a child and the meat skewer fell to the ground. With an anguished look on his face, Amandrake knelt down, staring at the meat skewer and crying out, That skewer was so expensive! It's okay, Khloe. Remember the 3-second rule? Boris, also panicking, counted down. 3, 2... A flustered Khloe said, Oh, stop it! It's fine, really. Khloe turned around, glaring at the other boy. Raymond was backlit, and they could only see his silhouette. What a rude jerk. Boris looked at Amandrake and asked, Professor, where are Marion and the vice principal? Beside them, Khloe glared at Raymond with pure rage. "I'm going to break his neck!" Since the skewer was now dirty, Drake decided to pick it up and throw it away before answering Boris. "I don't know. They were still with us during the opening ceremony." Drake suddenly froze, as if remembering something. Wait. He suddenly recalled what Anarin once said. Many dark elves have an obsession with one thing at the dining table. Dirty plates piled on top of each other. Piled so high they were teetering, with sauce still dripping onto the table. The air around them is heavy and chaotic, food scattered everywhere. Is she hungry? This is bad. Marion trembled as she leaned back, letting out a hearty laugh, seemingly oblivious to the mess in front of her. In contrast, Breast nonchalantly rested her chin on her hand and continued to eat slowly. Her expression was indifferent, as if everything was perfectly normal. Behind the mountain of plates, Drake stood frozen. Shadows hid his eyes, his whole body stiff with shock. Beside him, the two children huddled together, their faces pale, letting out quiet whimpers of fear. The very next moment, his anger exploded. A furious shout echoed, "You idiots!" The shout shattered the bizarre atmosphere, making Khloe and Boris jump as a cold sweat broke out. They quickly backed away. "We're just having some technical difficulties," the two said in unison. "Professor Amon, what?" Two figures were sprawled on the cold stone floor, their bodies twisted as if they'd been thrown down without mercy. "Isn't this what you call codependency?" In front of them, Drake's face was dark, one hand placed on his chest, his expression a mixture of irritation and disgust. "So what? Thanks to you two, all my money is gone, spent on that meal." The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. The two on the floor fell silent, their eyes lifeless, with none of their earlier spirit. "And now our students won't even be able to have a proper meal. Remember this." Drake leaned down close to Bless's ear. "Every infamous commander dies at the hands of her own father." Bless's eyes shot wide open, and she screamed. "But killing me is going too far. Then how about being beaten to within an inch of your life? How does that sound?" "Wait," Bless continued. "Did you know there's a secret betting pool for this competition?" Drake thought it over slowly. In the end, he was the one who had to pay for the meal. He took out his coin purse and gave it to the attendant to bet 6 silver coins each on Boris and Khloe winning their first match. "Here, take this confirmation ticket." The attendant smiled. "Thank you for your business, sir." Meanwhile, Drake's heart ached as if it were being stabbed, having to pay for that meal. "Damn it! Never again!" Drake stared blankly at the bill. "But these kids have beaten adults before. They'll definitely win," he tried to reassure himself. The weather at the arena today was beautiful. An announcement echoed across the grounds. "The first round of the competition is swordsmanship." The announcements continued. Khloe and Boris headed for the gate. "Will all contestants please step forward?" Standing next to Breast, Drake clasped his hands and prayed silently. "I'm putting all my faith in you two. If you lose, we're all going to starve. What's more, we'll have to find our own way back to the academy." All Breast felt was hunger. "I'm feeling hungry again." Suddenly, Boris felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. He grew anxious, kneading his shoulder with his hand. "It hurts so much." The result of his special training with Ammon. A face in the crowd, full of killing intent, cheered, "Victory for Khloe! Aaron, you're the best! Khloe!" The competition kicked off with a win for Khloe. Meanwhile, Boris was matched against a student from a prestigious academy. The match was fierce. The student from the famous academy rushed forward with a ferocious look, their body lunging. The weapon in their hand came crashing down without hesitation. Facing them was Boris. He hastily blocked the blow, his body trembling from the force of the impact. The crowd behind them was stunned at the sight. Is that kid a commoner? He's holding his own pretty well. Boris grew more and more anxious and tense, and he started to rush. No, my shoulder is hurting more and more. Drake was still basking in Khloe's victory, his face beaming. An easy 60 silver coins. Thanks, Khloe. And the cumulative odds for Boris are 1 to 100. Plus, the kid's a commoner. Too easy. Boris suddenly launched himself into the air, his whole body in an attack stance, raising his weapon high with both hands, using the momentum of his fall to channel all his strength into a single downward strike. The crowd's cheers rang out. "I believe in you, Boris!" He gritted his teeth. In that instant, an old memory suddenly flashed back to him. We all believe in you, son. An image of Boris's parents appeared in his mind. You'll be the best there is at the academy. You're going to shine. He carried their expectations and his own excitement with him. I won't let you down. Just believe in me. The boy realized something after joining the academy. To even be considered average among the nobles, he had to work 10 times harder than anyone else. In the darkness, Amandrake's voice called out, Boris, are you still training? Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, he was still training diligently. Seeing him still at it, Amandrake brought a lantern over to him. Professor Aman, watching you makes me feel like doing 100 laps myself. That's too many, by the lake. Professor, Boris asked Amandrake, why did you ask me about training for the competition? Why, you ask? Amandrake turned his head in surprise to look at Boris. Snapping out of the memory, Boris gritted his teeth. Why was I training so late at night? Of course it was because... He swung down at his opponent. I can win. The strain of the movement sent a sharp pain through his shoulder. He suddenly staggered aback. Amandrake looked on, confused. Why did he suddenly back off? The student from the prestigious academy was arrogant. What's the matter? Lost your footing? Boris's face was filled with panic. The student from the prestigious academy continued his taunts. Is that the limit for a commoner, I wonder? The pain in Boris's shoulder intensified. His hands began to tremble. This is bad. Boris's body started to shake. My shoulder, I can't move it. Just then his opponent made a sudden move, catching Boris completely off guard. With a sinister expression, Ichida pointed his wooden sword at Boris. I'll teach a commoner like you your place. Ichida's wooden sword came down with heavy momentum. The blow was too fast, striking Boris squarely. With a loud crack he shouted, Go back to your pigsty! The impact rocked Boris's shoulder, throwing his whole body off balance. Sweat poured down his forehead as he gritted his teeth, his eyes fighting to stay focused. I lost. The announcement rang out. Ichida is the winner! Amandrake buried his face in his hands, ignoring the stares of the people around him. My 6 silver coins. The crowd started murmuring about Boris. But that commoner kid did a great job. Yeah, he did. But how can he possibly compare to someone from a noble family? Amandrake mulled over their words. He may be a commoner, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for that kid. Boris approached Amandrake, his arm in a sling. Professor Aman, Boris looked dejected. Amandrake looked up and replied, What is it? Why the long face? Boris stared at the ground. Amandrake stood up and walked over to him. I'm sorry. I lost in the very first round. It's all right, you did wonderfully, Boris. Boris felt a wave of guilt and shame as he faced Amandrake. Why didn't you tell me your shoulder was injured? Amandrake said, ruffling Boris's hair. If I told you, would you still have let me participate in the match? I really wanted to win. Oh, Boris. Memories flooded back. The days Boris spent training so diligently. What do you think of my class? Huh? Well, it's exhausting, but it's also a lot of fun. Oh, really? Besides, don't you feel much more confident now? Amandrake looked at Boris with a fond expression. The result doesn't matter. What's important is the process. You'll have many more opponents in the future. Boris looked up at Amandrake, his eyes shining. So use this match as a stepping stone to push forward and grow even more. Yes, Professor Aman. The two of them reached out and linked their pinky fingers, sealing a silent promise. And you should tell me if you ever have any injuries, all right? Got it? Yes, sir. After a long day, the tournament was finally drawing to a close. The sky was beginning to dim as the announcer began the next segment. And now for the swordsmanship category of this tournament. We have finally reached the final round! Khloe was still diligently cleaning her wooden sword. The announcer's voice boomed, Once again, many of the Empire's most talented have demonstrated their incredible skills, especially Khloe, who has been performing exceptionally well. Like a rising star, I'm very much looking forward to this young lady's next match. Amandrake, Boris, Breeze, and Marion sat together, each with a different expression on their face. Amandrake was still pondering Khloe's opponent, while Breeze looked sleepy. And now, the final match between Khloe and Jamin. That student, Jamin. He doesn't seem to be from an academy, and his skills look pretty mediocre, Amandrake thought. The participants were now entering the arena. I'm sure Khloe will win. Amandrake suddenly looked stunned. Jamin walked out slowly. He was a man with a rough, fierce appearance. His voice was deep and hoarse. Do your best to hide your abilities during the competition. You too. Raymond rested the wooden sword on his shoulder and looked up. I wonder what kind of enlightenment I can gain from this tournament. Royal Grand Swordsman, the King of the Heavenly Sword, the Hidden Grandson. Raymond. Raymond looked bored as he glanced up at Khloe and fell into a fighting stance. I'm really looking forward to this. Stop spouting nonsense. What? The crowd in the stands began to murmur. Can't you see? It looks like Khloe is going to win. I'm going to go get more popcorn. Well, I'm going to relieve myself. Khloe gave him an indifferent look and pointed to herself. This doesn't look very interesting. Let's finish this quickly. Raymond suddenly raised his wooden sword and rushed towards Khloe. This low-level tournament is no fun at all. Let me show you a little bit of my talent. The match between Khloe and Raymond begins. Khloe's face was filled with surprise, her eyes wide. Raymond's movements were fast and decisive. As soon as the start was announced, Khloe only had time to lean away, narrowly dodging the sword. Raymond lunged forward, his wooden sword drawing a wide arc. He brought it down from above, his body twisting with the slash, all of his weight concentrated in his arm. Gripping the sword's hilt tightly, Khloe immediately lowered her body. Her pink hair flew up with the momentum as she dodged the blow by a hair's breadth. Jameson's wooden blade skimmed right over her. It was so close that the wind from the strike shook the space around them. Amandrake, sitting in the stands, watched the situation unfold below. This kid, looking at that unusual movement. The two of them were like two wild beasts pouncing on each other. He's really like a wild bear. The announcement rang out. Raymond is in the lead with powerful strikes and aggressive movements. Khloe looked worried. He's too fast. How am I supposed to block him? In a flash, Raymond rushed forward like the wind, his cold eyes intensely focused, charging at Khloe. What do I do now? Before Khloe could react, the blow landed on her shoulder. The announcement rang out, 1 point for Raymond! The two blades locked, stopping the opponent's strike. Khloe gritted her teeth. Now this is getting interesting, isn't it? Stop playing around. I haven't even started yet. Khloe thought the girl was gaining the upper hand. Then, she heard the crowd whispering. How terrifying. The whispers echoed. This isn't like before, is it? So boring. She's just getting attacked without being able to fight back. I was hoping she might show some talent. Stop messing around and fight already. Hearing those words, Khloe's expression suddenly changed. The stares and the pointing fingers of others felt like psychological ghosts weighing her down. I thought I could handle this, but I'm scared. Khloe suddenly remembered her school days, when her friends would give her mocking looks. She acts like she's so great, but who knew it would be like this? Does anyone smell pig around here? You were so arrogant before. What about now? Does she still think she's royalty? Khloe's eyes filled with sadness. This wasn't the path I wanted from the beginning, when I couldn't decide my own future. Father, why do I have to study abroad? I just want to stay here. Get out of here immediately. I have no other choice but to leave. For a royal family with no right of succession, that is a fate one must accept. She stroked Jason. Jason looked at her sadly. How am I supposed to live like this? Khloe's foot felt like it had stepped on something. When she got there, Khloe was filled with determination despite the words of those around her. Even if I'm studying abroad as someone half-abandoned, I don't want to lose my royal dignity, even if that means death. This semester's Brave Child Award. Khloe Aaron, please step forward. People were pointing, but doesn't her appearance displease the other students? After the country fell, the bullying never stopped. Khloe thought back to the past, and ever since then, I've been afraid of how people look at me. Khloe couldn't move at all. Amandrake, sitting in the stands, watched Khloe with concern. At this rate, the girl is going to lose. Can she even fight back? No. At this rate, it's going to be dangerous. If Khloe wins, I'll get at least 1 point and 50 silver coins. He shouted, Khloe! Amandrake's roar tore through the air. It made a few people nearby grimace and cover their ears. Khloe also looked up at him. Don't forget what the professor taught us. We learned it in the special class. The way to face a stranger. Khloe gripped the sword in her hand. Khloe, compare the stranger with anything that you can easily deal with. Raymond also heard Amandrake's shout and looked up at him. Is that her professor? Why is he yelling so loud? But while Raymond was distracted, Khloe struck him right on the head. 1 point for Khloe. Drake was chatting with Bless. By the way, isn't that student from the Aaron Kingdom? Yes, that's right. But the pork there is delicious. It's such a shame. Drake was puzzled. Pork? Marion zoomed over to look at the two of them. You don't know? That kingdom is famous for its livestock industry. The entire street is flooded with pigs. In their dialect, what do they call pigs? I'm pretty sure that... Meanwhile, down in the arena, Khloe's entire body seemed to radiate a murderous aura. You damn pig. Drake was surprised. For example, your hometown has a lot of potatoes. Now imagine those people are potatoes. Khloe swung her sword, creating arcs of light, striking Jameson. I've created a monster. Special move. Stir-fried pork. Their legs gathered power. Khloe and Jameson rushed at each other. The two wooden swords met, their killing intent clashing. In that moment, Raymond gritted his teeth, enduring Khloe's blow. Is this an aura? No, that's forbidden in the competition. The hand Raymond used to hold his sword began to tremble. Then where did this sudden strength come from? Raymond looked at Khloe. What are you looking at? He met Khloe's murderous gaze. You damn pig. Raymond was sent flying by Khloe in that instant. Raymond's eyes were blank. Grandpa, thanks to you, I've realized something. Khloe had knocked Raymond down to the ground. It was as if Raymond had come to a great realization. I'm just a frog in a well, the match is over. The winner is Khloe Aaron. Drake jumped up with joy. Yes, that's how it's done. This money is enough to cover my expenses. Thanks, Khloe. He looked blankly towards Khloe. Khloe. Khloe fainted in the arena after the match. Balloons, shaped like the old emperor, were released into the sky. Everyone, please rise. The emperor will congratulate the victors with a speech. King Amethyst was pleased to announce, these young swordsmen put on a really impressive fight, didn't they? Of course. When you see the amazing sword skills of those who could become commanders, who wouldn't be impressed? Raymond stepped up to the podium. Now will the winner of the swordsmanship competition please step onto the stage, say. The faces of both Drake and Khloe darkened. My Khloe should have been the one standing up there. Just when Khloe was about to win, she fainted. Living an easy life and bothering others, huh? When Khloe fainted, Drake ran down to check on her. He suddenly remembered the rules of the game. The match ends when both of your feet step out of the circle. That is the code of a knight and the law of battle. Furthermore, the winner of the swordsmanship competition is Raymond. They're okay, but I don't know why I'm so annoyed. Drake and Khloe listened blankly to King Amethyst's voice. Wait, I'd like to speak with one more person. One who is just as outstanding in the competition. Khloe Aaron, please step onto the stage. King Amethyst looked happily at the three children. Thank you all for making this competition more exciting. According to the rules, each of you will receive 10 gold coins. King Amethyst leaned down and asked Khloe, by the way, Khloe Aaron, are you from the Aaron Kingdom? Yes, you must have been through a lot. But Drake and everyone else were moved. I've met your father a few times. It was all my fault. It's all right, sir. Those pigs deserved what happened to them. I understand. My child, it must have been very difficult for you to accept that. He truly believes the fall of the Aaron Kingdom had nothing to do with the Empire, yet he still apologizes so sincerely. He truly has the soul of a saint. Drake was surprised and bewildered. The person who shouted earlier, was that your professor? Yes, that's right, Your Majesty. He seems like an interesting fellow, doesn't he? King Amethyst gestured towards the stands. Whoever taught Khloe Aaron, please step onto the stage. What the heck? Drake was suddenly bewildered amidst everyone's admiring gazes. What the heck? Drake walked up to the stage. I never expected this to happen to me. He placed a hand on his chest and bowed to the king, the first step to success. I offer you my sincerest greetings, Your Majesty. The king happily rewarded him with a bag of money. You're clearly a capable person. You have a very talented student. I will also give you 10 gold coins. Money, awesome. Thank you, Your Majesty. Drake was delighted, his eyes and expression fixated greedily on the money pouch. But you look very familiar. What is your name? Drake, Your Majesty. The king whispered, Drake. Drake nodded happily. Yes, my name is Drake, sir. Who are you calling Your Majesty, you damn brat? Huh? King Amethyst's face suddenly darkened. No wonder greed is written all over your face. So you crawled out of that Drake family. Drake bowed his head nervously. I am very sorry, Your Majesty. What? Does he have something against my family? Your greed makes it obvious you come from that family. I mean, you were the one who offered the reward in the first place. But in the end, he still offered the money pouch to Amandrake. Whatever, take it. Thank you, Your Majesty. Suddenly, King Amonist snatched the money pouch back just as Amandrake was about to take it. Not so easy. King Amonist offered the money pouch again. Just kidding. Here you go. You made my heart stop, sire. Your Majesty, I will cherish it. He snatched the money pouch back again, leaving Amandrake looking bewildered. Missed me. Amandrake's eyes narrowed sinisterly. He raised his hand, his fingers clenching into a fist. Queen Victoria's entire face darkened. And this is the 17th Emperor Amonet? A saint? Yeah, right. Calm down. The family's reputation will only sink lower if I act like this. Just act like I made a mistake. And Queen Victoria landed a straight punch on King Amonist's head. The Queen's eyes were filled with killing intent as she looked at King Amonist. What kind of attitude are you displaying? As royalty, you should conduct yourself in a manner befitting your station. My love, you're the Queen, and we're in front of our people, remember? King Amonist then laughed cheerfully and spoke to Amandrake. It seems I let my emotions get the better of me. That was not a good look. That's Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria approached Amandrake. You said you're from the Drake family, correct? Yes, ma'am. Her face suddenly turned serious. It seems you are unaware of the conflict between the Amonet and Drake families. Amandrake looked on with a bewildered expression. Huh? What do you mean? The Queen took the money pouch with one hand. Just know that there is a reason His Majesty behaves this way. You may step down now. Yes, I understand. He stepped down with a sad expression, feeling everyone's stares. In the end, not a single gold coin made it into his pocket. Night had fallen. Raymond returned home, dejected. He threw down his bag and wooden sword, then lay face down on the wooden floor. How did it go, son? I won. Raymond, leaning on his sword, asked, Draymond, son, did you win? While hiding your power as I instructed? The Imperial Grand Swordmaster, Sword King Raymond, thought for a moment. Then he laughed heartily and ruffled Draymond's hair. So, that's a no? What's going through your head, kid? The world out there is a tough place to survive, isn't it? Yes, you're right, sir. Sword King Renben's gaze sharpened, Draymond's reflection glinting on his blade. There are so many incredibly skilled people hiding out there, aren't there? Even though they call me a genius swordsman and grant me the title of Sword King, I know that out there. There are many who are far better than me, and I wouldn't stand a chance if I fought them. Yes, what I'm trying to get at is this. Arrogance is a type of poison, understand? Yes. But who was so talented that they forced you to reveal your true skills? He recalled the person with an annoyed expression. Someone named Khloe Aaron from the Amonet Academy in the Aaron Kingdom. It wasn't easy at all. Hearing Raymond say this, Renben's eyes sharpened. And she has a professor. A professor who could force my own student to get serious must be quite skilled indeed. A mischievous smile spread across his face. How interesting. That night, the village was deserted, with no lights shining from any of the houses. Meanwhile, a new crisis was unfolding at the Amonet Academy. With shimmering eyes, Aneurin looked at a bewildered Amandrake. What did you just say? Hearing the announcement, Aneurin wept, blaming herself for having shown disrespect to the Emperor, who has requested the dismissal of Aemon of the Drake family, currently a professor at the Amonet Academy. Reading the whole notice, Amandrake was in a state of utter disbelief. That damn Drake brat! I don't know what kind of attitude you showed him, but you should be grateful His Majesty is only dismissing you and not doing anything worse. At least that's how I see it. This is unacceptable. He gritted his teeth. A dismissal request. If I had known this would happen. Amandrake's hands clenched into fists. Tears streamed down Aneurin's face as she cried, thinking, I would have gone to see the Emperor sooner. Look at how much Professor Aemon is suffering. And here I am, thinking I could just leave the academy without taking any responsibility. She stepped closer to comfort him. Why did I have to choose the painful path instead of the easy one? What's wrong, Professor Aemon? What exactly happened? Amandrake explained the situation to her. Aneurin was stunned, her hands pressed against the table across from him. I'm not sure myself, but it seems there was some kind of conflict between the Imperial family and my family, so His Majesty is rather angry. He's firing you for that? But you've done so much for this academy. He suddenly recalled his days at the academy. So many things happened. I secured the academy's finances, created the training program, and I even persuaded the vice principal. This is Eamon Drake, bowing deeply. I've made so many precious memories here. But there's nothing I can do now. Thank you for everything. I guess Eamon is a free man now. There's really nothing we can do, is there? A bright smile bloomed on Anarin's face. In that case, why don't we just ignore the Emperor's request? After all, our academy is already closed, isn't it? A few crows appeared at the academy gates. A request is just a request, nothing more. You see, we're still doing just fine. Our academy is still operating normally. Nothing will happen even if we ignore another request. Just do what the Emperor wants. Anarin placed a hand over her heart. As the headmistress, I find this unacceptable. I can't just stand by and watch a talented professor like you leave without doing anything. It would damage my reputation and honor. Then just fire me already. Eamon Drake clutched his head. It's too soon to give up, Professor Eamon. This is the perfect time to give up. What's important is that we must believe we can fight this. Please, just stop! What's all this commotion? He yelled. It's a request to dismiss Professor Eamon. Yes, that's right, Vice Principal. Please, just fire me. I can't do that. His face darkened. How could I possibly fire a teacher as talented as you, even if it's a request from the Emperor himself? I can't do it. Damn it. As Brett approached with a dark expression, he thought, she's only doing this because she knows I want to be fired. You can come here anytime you wish, but you are not allowed to leave. Professor Eamon is being dismissed? Suddenly, Marion Zoom Zoom burst through the door looking rushed and holding a stack of documents. Senior Marion, a talented professor like you being fired for no reason? This is ridiculous. While Marion Zoom Zoom and Anarin tried to figure out a way to save him, he thought, finally someone will take care of my paperwork. Eamon Drake clutched his head in despair. I'll send word to Marcus Williams, and another to the north, to let His Majesty know. Don't you dare! I'll also send, don't do it! What if I starve? He screamed, completely losing it. If you aren't going to fire me, then at least give me a vacation. And with that, Eamon gave up on escaping the academy. A large, ancient estate, surrounded by a forest. Below it were smaller houses. Eamon Drake stood on a hill, Eamon's homeland, the Drake territory in the Demon Mountains. He stood, breathing in the air. I'm finally home, my beloved home. Anarin's ears were listening to her surroundings. This is my first time seeing the Demon Mountains. The seven of them stood looking at the village. So this is what the edge of the continent looks like. This weather is perfect for enjoying a bottle of wine. And I think I smell some delicious food nearby. No matter where I go, these weirdos always have to follow me. The library is classically and luxuriously decorated. You've been here for 3 months now, so your vacation will be 3 days long. Yes. Anarin looked at Eamon Drake's thoughtful expression, bewildered. But it takes at least 15 days just to get to his territory, according to the Academy's rules. I can't save up my vacation days for more than a month. He suddenly shouted, At this point, I have to start with negotiations. Headmistress, my hometown is in the Demon Mountains. Is that so? Since it's a long trip, I'll add some vacation days for you, she replied with a bright smile. No, that's not what I mean. Is there any way I can take my leave sooner? No. Oh no, absolutely not. Professor Amon, are you trying to break the rules? Do you think I'm the type of person who's easily persuaded? She sat down, took a snail-shaped piece of cloth from her suitcase, and held it up for him to see. Or I could take you there with magic. We used that to get to the snail competition, didn't we? Of course I remember. I'm very happy you offered to take me like this. But why are you packing a bag? She grinned brightly and said, Well, I have to take you there anyway, right? So I might as well make a trip of it. His face suddenly darkened. I'm so excited. I've never been to the Demon Mountains before, since the competition just ended. This will be a nice change of pace and a great field trip. Eamon snatched the cloth from Anarin's hand. Let's gather all the professors and students to share the news. The news? No, wait, hold on a minute. What field trip? Do you think my hometown is some kind of tourist attraction? She looked bewildered, tearing the piece of paper in her hand in two. Huh? Aren't you going on vacation? Then I guess you don't need this anymore. Eamon Drake panicked. No, I mean, why does everyone have to come? Can't I have a little private space? She held up her index finger. All right, Professor Eamon, I'll give you a choice. Anarin's fingers formed an L. Option 1, you get 4 days of leave and can go alone but no magical transportation. And option 2, you use magic, but you have to go with everyone. Aemon Drake's whole body trembled with anger, and so, the decision was made. Aneurin spread her arms wide, breathing in the air. The air here is so fresh. To me, it feels more like the air of death. Grace was sitting, looking at the potato field. Welcome, everyone. Aemon's father cheerfully welcomed everyone to their home. It's not a magnificent place, but please make yourselves comfortable. Amon's father, Kasim Drake. Everyone was sitting together, drinking tea and chatting. Thank you for your hospitality, Viscount Drake. It's nothing, headmistress. Marion Zoom Zoom cheerfully suggested to Kasim, by chance I brought some good wine with me, so let's have a little drink later, shall we? He showed his excitement to the point of drooling at the invitation. Isn't this one of a mare's rare vintages? My son really has some wonderful colleagues at work, doesn't he? Just as expected from Viscount Zoom Zoom. Father, don't be fooled. What's more important is a person's inner self. Aemon Drake's father chatted happily with Aneurin and Marion Zoom Zoom, while Aemon Drake was treated as if he were invisible. His whole body trembled with anger. I have to keep these troublemakers away from my father before they get too close. The atmosphere was warm. Kasim hugged the bottle of wine like a treasure. Father? What is it, my proud son? Aemon Drake's eyes were dark, his hands clasped together. Since I'm back, there's something I want to ask you. Yes? He recalled the words of King Amonis. It's about King Amonis. So you're from the Drake family? And the look from Queen Victoria. Yes. I've been thinking about it constantly, and the attitude I received was quite unusual. It seems you don't know the details of the relationship between the royal family and the Drake family. In the quiet study, father and son sat facing each other. Aemon Drake's face showed clear agitation. Did something happen, father? I think it's time to tell you the truth. He slammed his hand on the table in alarm. The Drake family is a branch of the Amonis family, the current royal family? What did you just say? Kasim approached the bookshelf and took out a book amidst Aemon Drake's confusion. Then why are you only a Viscount if our bloodline is related to them? Shouldn't we at least hold a higher title? After all, even Grand Duke Orga, who is related to Emperor Aemon... Kasim handed the book to his son. You'll understand as soon as you read this. He stared blankly at the book. This is the chronicle recorded since the time of the first emperor of the empire. As I said, although we split off long ago, our family still carries the blood of the first emperor. Aemon Drake began to open the book, bewildered. That's why we keep this copy. This is the only one left. It was abridged during my father's time. So, this is the truth about our family. In the first year of the unified empire, a discussion with Grand Duke Remory Arya Drake. Grand Duke Drake. So my original clan was a major one, huh? According to the imperial records, people would never give up on beating this brat to death. Grand Duke Drake. Even if rivers run dry and mountains wear away, huh? In the third year after the unification of the empire, the emperor was defeated and fell gravely ill after a battle with Grand Duke Drake. While on his deathbed, the emperor furiously said, "Damn you, scribes! You are not to record any of this!" In the 6th year after unification, the emperor said, "That disrespectful punk Duke Drake." However, Grand Duke Drake simply replied, "Yes, long live your majesty," which made the emperor flip the table in anger. What? He was stripped of his title of Grand Duke. On the same day, the emperor said, "I told you not to write it down, you damn bastard." The scribe was kicked out. He should have stopped when the emperor told him to, but Amonis VIII said Marquis Drake was a punk. Amonis II slapped Count Drake. Amonis XIV sentenced Viscount Drake. Wait, just how far back does this regression go? It definitely started with Grand Duke Drake. Headmaster Sanrio claimed that Berlin Drake stole his sausage and urged for Viscount Drake to be demoted to Baron. Aemon Drake closed this book. Is this for real? A quarrel between two men. Their children's quarrel escalated to involve the parents, and then it became a family feud. All because of such a petty, ridiculous reason. Aemon Drake's father rested his chin on his hand, contemplating. Aemon Drake looked bewildered. It's quite embarrassing, but that's the whole story. Why did the Drake family fall into ruin like this? I thought there was some kind of civil war. What is this situation? Kim-san looked serious. Father, do you have a good relationship with the current emperor? Not really. I've never even seen His Majesty's face. My father is a complete stranger to the current emperor, and it's only been a few years since the Great War was resolved, and yet, Best is still sneaking around, stealing from the potato garden. Perhaps it's because of that strained relationship, that our territory wasn't forcibly conscripted during the Great War. They probably forgot about us because we're so far away and hard to reach. So much mana. So much mana. The red book was placed neatly on the table. Really? In any case, this is a top-secret matter known only to the royal family's confidants and our family, the Drake family. Don't reveal this to anyone. Who could I possibly tell a story like this to? This is so embarrassing. How can I even show my face outside anymore? Eamon Drake held his head. Yes, but why are you only telling me now? With your temper, do you think you would have stayed still? Look, the table is broken. What's wrong with my temper? You may look like me, but your personality is just like your mother's. Kim-san, as if hearing something, turned around with a cheerful face. Who is this dark elf? Julia, you're back. The two Drake men froze like statues. Eamon's mother appeared with a radiant expression. Oh my goodness. Eamon, you're home to visit. Yes, it's been a while. But why? Why? Eamon's mother, Julia Drake, looked at her mother with a listless and helpless gaze. This person was digging for potatoes in our backyard, so I brought her here. Do you know this elf? She was saying something about mana, but Breast looked filthy. She's the vice principal of my academy. The sun began to set behind the mountains. Did you just see the vice principal get kidnapped? Phil, Anarin, Boris, Khloe, Marion, and Zundan were hiding behind a bush. Yes, what in the world is going on in this village? They were all hiding and watching the people carrying large fish on their shoulders. Someone's coming! Quick, hide! Wait, those people... They all have such fierce expressions. How did they catch so many dangerous monsters? They seemed to have noticed something. A man approached Anarin's group with a dangerous look. Who are you people? Why haven't I seen you before? What's going on over there? Amon Drake was in the forest looking for everyone. Amon, young master! Professor, I heard something that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. It seems it's not a monster. Eamon Drake walked closer to the people carrying the large fish. When did you get back? I just got here. But Phil, Anarin, Boris, Khloe, Marion, and Zundan looked surprised. Today's catch isn't that great, huh? There are tons of monsters out there, old man. Yes. These days, the monsters are pretty scared and timid. They don't dare to come out. I hope we can go inside for a drink. Is that so? Could it be because we caught so many that they've gone extinct? You really beat them to death until they went extinct? Phil, Anarin, Boris, Khloe, Marion, and Zundan bowed their heads. We're truly sorry for the misunderstanding earlier. Eamon Drake cheerfully introduced them. Anyway, let me introduce you. This is the headmaster, a professor, and students from my academy. These people, I'm truly sorry for shouting. You're outsiders, so it's understandable. They all laughed heartily. They're our guests. You've become a fine professor, young master. If you work hard, who knows, you might become the headmaster one day. Eamon Drake rubbed his head in embarrassment. I was just planning to stay there for 3 years and then get out. Please don't say such things. You all look a bit disheveled. Shall we go change our clothes? Finally, he seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Yes, we have guests, so let's hurry. It's great to see everyone again, but it's getting too noisy and dark. You should all go home. Eamon Drake looked down at Phil, Anarin, Boris, Khloe, Marion, and Zoom Zoom, who all collapsed to the ground, completely drained of energy. Have these people all gone crazy? Professor Ammon is actually going easy on them. Professor Ammon is so cool. No wonder the special training class is so hard. Is my blood alcohol level not high enough or something? Why is everyone acting like this? As night fell, Anarin suddenly stammered in shock. Professor Ammon, what are you eating? Ammon calmly continued to gnaw on the piece of meat in his hand. Huh? It's meat? Anarin asked again suspiciously. Don't tell me you're surprised that it's monster meat. How can you eat something like that? Ammon calmly continued eating. It may look this way, but it actually tastes pretty good. Are you sure you won't try some? Holding a potato in her hand, she politely refused. I'm fine with just this potato. Even though I've lived among humans for a long time, a meat just doesn't suit my palate. Hearing this, he smiled teasingly. Right, you're an elf. You act so much like a demon that I forgot. The atmosphere in the night was truly warm. Laughter echoed all around. Hey, you've gone a bit too far. You too, said a trembling Count. I'm not kidding. In another corner, Ammon's mother was comforting Bless. I'll get some potatoes for you to take home, okay? That's why you shouldn't meddle in other people's business. Just then, after taking a punch from Anarin, Ammon sniffled happily, savoring the rare moment of peace. It's been so long since I've felt this peaceful. The moment that thought crossed his mind, a huge explosion erupted beside him, lighting up a corner of the sky. Everyone was startled by the sound. A drunk Marion turned around. What the hell was that noise? Phil also grumbled. What kind of alarm clock is that loud? Boris hurriedly searched for his teacher. Professor Ammon, what was that sound? He cheerfully picked up a giant axe and replied nonchalantly, It's probably just some insect. We just need to catch it and we'll be done. Boris asked in a panic, Sir, why are you using an axe to catch an insect? He answered him calmly, Because that insect is a monster. Boris screamed, A monster? Ammon turned his head and shouted, Everyone got your weapons ready? Everyone answered in unison, Yes, sir. Ammon took the lead, spearheading the group. Good. Let's make this quick and deal with them, then we can get back to eating. The villagers followed behind, each wielding a weapon, eager for battle. Roger that! And so the battle between Ammon and the villagers against the green-skinned monsters began. Ammon charged forward with his axe, cursing as he fought. How dare you shatter this moment of peace? Die, you bastards! With his nimble movements, Ammon severed a monster's leg. It shrieked in pain. Ammon analyzed. The leg meat is too tender. Suddenly, another monster lunged forward, attempting a sneak attack. Ammon spotted it just in time. He spun around and with a single slash, sent its head flying. The neck meat is lean and nutritious. Ammon's pace didn't slow in the slightest. In fact, it grew even more fluid as he advanced into the heart of the monster horde. Ammon shouted enthusiastically, Time for an all-you-can-eat buffet. He unleashed a flurry of sharp slashes. As Ammon slaughtered the monsters, he drooled with hunger. I'll take some more ribs, please. Finally, he launched himself into the sky. With just a few basic strikes, he swiftly dispatched the flying monster. The shredded pieces of its body rained down to the ground. Standing on the sidelines, Marion retched and lamented, I think my sense of taste is being destroyed. I can't believe a madman like that was accepted into the academy. Phil was also stunned, having witnessed the whole scene. Me too. While the two of them were still stunned by the horrifying sight, Phil thought, This is the first time I've ever seen such a frenzied battle. On the other side, Ammon had just finished off another monster. He did it by thrusting his hand straight through its stomach. As he fought, Ammon thought to himself, I'm starting to feel a bit tired now. Watching him fight, Phil wondered to herself, he's never learned basic combat techniques, so how can he fight this well? He's doing it all with just raw power and instinct, isn't he? She breathed a sigh of relief. Just as I thought. Thank goodness I haven't taught him any sword techniques yet. Ammon continued his relentless sweep of the monsters. For dessert, let's have some fried rice cakes. At last, the battle was over. Ammon let out a heavy breath. He sat atop the pile of monster corpses, wiped the sweat from his brow, and sighed. It's been a while since I've gone monster hunting. That was a real workout. Everyone gathered around Ammon, applauding and praising him. That's our young master for you, to wipe out that many monsters all by yourself. That's the power of young Master Ammon. He humbly replied, My body is still pretty stiff, so I wasn't even using my full strength. He gave a gentle smile. I guess I must have gotten too complacent working as a teacher. Meanwhile, a whisper was heard from the crowd. What's complacent? Is that some kind of food? After witnessing the fight, Marion also came forward cheerfully, showering him with praise. Excellent work, Ammon, he replied politely. Senior, you're here as well. It's nothing important. You should get some rest. He stepped closer and asked, Are all the monsters gone now? Still seated, Ammon replied, For the time being, but I have a feeling they'll keep coming. You suddenly raised a question. I think it was Drake, wasn't it? Marion asked in surprise. Wait, isn't Drake your family name? The moment he heard that, Ammon fiercely denied it. Are you saying my family is a bunch of monsters? It's not because the name's a coincidence, is it? It suddenly occurred to Marion. You're talking about drakes, the ones that look like dragons, right? Ammon looked bewildered, not understanding what he was talking about. Stop joking like that, you'll get scolded. Hearing that, Marion asked quizzically, Huh? Scolded by who? Ammon started to say something, but then stopped. Ammon changed the subject. Just forget it. I feel like these monsters are running from something. Otherwise, why would ogres and draconians, monsters that prefer to operate alone, suddenly gather into a group? Marion also felt his reasoning was sound. That's logical. Marion began his analysis. According to the records, drakes are characterized by their massive wall-like bodies and scales as hard as iron armor. They're also strong enough to fight ogres. Amon slowly stood up from the monster corpses. That's right, especially the older drakes. If they make it here, the village's potato fields will be completely flattened. Marion still had his doubts. But aren't drakes a rare type of monster that only appear in records? Amon cracked his knuckles as he answered his question. That's right. But it's more accurate to say they rarely appear. The next morning, a horde of drakes swarmed Amon's yard, eating potatoes. A scream rang out. Damn it, the drakes are here! An enraged priestess wanted to charge at the drakes. Oh my God, they're going to eat all the potatoes in the region. You bastards! My potatoes! Amon looked at her helplessly. You know those aren't your potatoes. Boris and Khloe were trying to calm Breast's fury. Vice Principal, please calm down! Amon collapsed to the ground, holding his face in despair. What are we supposed to do with them now? All around, people's jaws dropped at the sight before them. Just then, Marion stepped forward confidently. My dear friend, do you believe in a six-ring mage like myself? He began to cast a spell. After they get a taste of my fire magic, they'll become a handful of ash. From Marion's hands, a large magic circle was deployed. From within, a surge of power was unleashed, aimed straight at a drake. Marion's power lightly touched the dragon's nose, then bounced right back at Marion. He luckily leaned aside and dodged it. Amon stood by, mocking him. Looks like you're the one who's about to become a pile of ash, huh? Fio looked up at the dragon and suddenly remembered something. Fio recalled. That's the creature my father defeated before. She instantly gained confidence. Fio drew her sword and declared, Then I can do it too. But then her sword broke in two. Behind Fio was a despairing Marion. My magic has no effect. Amon also spoke up. If a sword could hurt them, I would have used my axe a long time ago. In the end, he had to give the order himself. At this point, we have no other choice. Everyone gather up and fight those bastards. Behind Amon, everyone was seething with rage because of the dragons. And so the battle began. Someone said with difficulty, Ma'am, please pull its hind leg harder. The group was trying to grab onto different parts of the dragon and drag it away. Make sure to hold on tight to its tail. It doesn't want to be pulled back, damn it. The dragon was being dragged away, but it was still trying to stick its tongue out to snatch a few more potatoes. This infuriated everyone. You're still eating at a time like this? Spit out our potatoes. The damn thing was resisting with all its might, when suddenly, Amon heard a voice that was both strange and familiar. It's been a long time since I've been here. Why is it so noisy? Amon was astonished when he recognized the man floating in the sky. Elder! He was overjoyed. It really is you, Amon! The elder landed in front of Amon. It seems these little rascals are causing trouble, huh? He wanted to ask for the elder's help. Yes! Can you help us pull it away? The elder simply tapped one of the drakes on the head. You little brat. He spoke to it gently. Why are you being so childish, huh? Though his voice was gentle, it carried immense pressure. Khloe ordered, Go back now. The dragon was frozen by his pressure. It immediately went elsewhere. Seeing this, Amon exclaimed in astonishment, It just ran off? He bowed deeply and said sincerely, Thank you, Elder. He gave a gentle smile. It's nothing. Is work going well? Amon replied happily. I suppose so. Hearing that, the elder was relieved. All right, then. You were so small before, and now you've become a teacher to these children. What a surprise. Amon turned to introduce him. Let me introduce you, Elder. This is my senior... Meanwhile, Marion was still wailing in anguish. My magic had no effect. I have to go retrain my magical power. Face looked on in anguish at his broken sword. Father, I miss you. The elder also looked on, hesitating. They seem quite unsettled, don't they? Amon spoke up to correct him. No, they're always like this, sir. He continued to introduce them as the principal and vice principal. He also looked on in awe as Anarin and Brez came forward to greet the elder. He asked, An elf and a dark elf hold important positions in the academy? Khloe approached them friendly. So, you're Amon's superior, are you? Please take good care of the boy. I'm Khloe. Oh, suddenly the color drained from Anarin's face and it sagged. The elder asked, Is something wrong? But she could only stammer, unable to speak. Then Anarin collapsed onto the ground to everyone's bewilderment. She screamed, "A dragon!" Eamon panicked. "Principal!" Scene change. Inside Ammon's house, a loud shout echoed. "Why is there a black dragon living in a human village?" Ammon was trying to explain to Anarin, who was cowering under a blanket. "He's just been a close neighbor of mine since I was little. He was also very close with my father." Anarin, trembling, asked again, "This black dragon is your neighbor?" He continued to speak well of the elder by telling his story. And Cassio-Lex also said that he's old and too tired to go out often. He also mentioned that he doesn't know any other dragons, so visiting our village is his only option. As Ammon told the story, he sniffled, moved with emotion. He's truly very lonely. After hearing the story, she still found it unbelievable. "Professor Ammon, you don't think he's some kind of stray who got kicked out, do you?" Ammon flatly dismissed Anarin's suspicion. "Anyway, this place is getting more and more chaotic. You should return to the academy as soon as possible. I'll stay here to clean up this mess." After the destruction caused by the drakes, Ammon's garden was in ruins. Oh no. "What do we do now?" Bress knelt and wailed before the crushed potato patch. "My potatoes!" Boris hurriedly comforted her. "Those aren't your potatoes." Anarin cheerfully agreed. "Of course." But right after that, Ammon placed a hand on her shoulder and expressed sincerely, "But I would be very happy if you could stay." He looked straight into her eyes and asked seriously, "I heard that elves have a unique magic that can help grow many crops?" Anarin was flustered. "How did you know?" Ammon didn't try to hide it, and recounted that the Mango King farm owner had written about it in a letter. "He said you went there on your day off to cast a spell." According to his story, Anarin helped the mango farm owner's mangoes grow big and fast. Hearing this, Anarin grumbled. He promised he would keep it a secret. With that, she pleaded fearfully, "Professor Ammon, if I stay here, I'll go crazy from fear. Look, my hands are trembling violently." Seeing that Anarin wouldn't agree, he immediately threatened her. "Even after you suddenly dragged the whole academy here, and now you want to just leave so easily? Yeah, keep dreaming." She cowered and stammered, "Come on." Anarin calmed herself. She raised her hand, created a magic circle, and said confidently, "You think I can't get out of here? I have a power that takes me wherever I want to go." Ammon suddenly shouted, "Cassio-Lex, are you here?" Just hearing his name was enough to send Anarin into a panic. Seeing her reaction, Ammon said cheerfully, "Failed, did you? I'm just kidding, calm down." He said he went for a walk around the village. Anarin hadn't even recovered from the shock when Cassio-Lex actually appeared unexpectedly behind Ammon. "Here I am, my boy." Ammon was stunned. "How did you—" As for Anarin, she was scared stiff. As the two chatted cheerfully, he asked, "Since I've used teleportation magic, when do you plan to return here again?" "I don't know yet." Ammon was still hesitant. "It'll probably be a few months." Meanwhile, Anarin had already fainted on the bed at some point. But Cassio-Lex said gently, "Wonderful. I should prepare a gift for you then." Ammon wondered, "A gift? Is it gold?" He denied it. "No, it is more valuable than that." The tempting promise made him both curious and expectant. Scene change. After the Drake's destruction, a reconstruction project began on Ammon's land. The unexpected monster incident turned the field trip into an agricultural field mission, planting potatoes. Anarin led the way, singing happily, followed by the two students. "Grow, potatoes, grow!" In just one morning, thanks to the elf's power and everyone's hard work, the potato garden was green and healthy again. Seeing the fruits of a whole morning of labor pay off, everyone was happy and excited. After a long, hard day, as night fell, Ammon couldn't stop sighing. "I was supposed to go back to work tomorrow." His face was haggard after an eventful day. "This vacation doesn't feel like a vacation at all." Ammon walked along a deserted road, lost in thought. "To be honest, I just wanted to visit this place again, and to ask for Dad's advice before quitting my job at the academy." But he recalled that before, the domain was not in good condition. Ammon reviewed the data sheet from the time he was away. "While I was away, the monster attacks decreased significantly, huh? Income also decreased. The import rate for monster meat is quite profitable." But Ammon stared at the paper, endlessly analyzing the situation, even though there was an income stream under his brother's name. "It's still a long way from recovering from this disaster. At this rate, I won't be able to pay the breach of contract fee." After reflecting on what just happened, Eamon realized something. Could it be that I'm an omen of disaster? He began to question himself. Why did the monster army attack right after I returned to this place? And what's more, there's no way a high-level Drake, one that's practically a legend, would just show up. Thinking this, he clenched his fist. Could it be that the academy, my first workplace, also fell into chaos because of me? But he immediately denied it. No, that has nothing to do with me at all. Amon remembered Anarin. Let's invest 4,900 gold coins. He furiously raised a friendly finger to the sky, cursing, "This is all that stupid elf's fault." Immediately after, he quickly pulled his hand back, telling himself, I have to get rich, and fast. Suddenly, a sound echoed in the quiet space. Eamon was curious. What's that sound? A persistent sound made him suspicious. Don't tell me there's a monster. He ducked into a bush to observe the situation. I think it's coming from over here. Suddenly, Eamon's eyes widened in shock when he realized there was no monster at all. Before him was Phil, relentlessly swinging her sword. He was stunned, watching her train without stopping. Amon wondered to himself, is that the real skill of Phil's family? Wait a minute. She's not even helping with the farm work. She's just been out here practicing her swordsmanship this whole time. At that thought, he was about to rush out of the bushes. This can't be happening. I have to let her know. But then his gaze fell upon the sight of Phil, trembling as she held the sword. Her hands were also covered in countless wounds. He couldn't understand. Why is she practicing until her hands bleed like that? Phil stood there, panting heavily for a moment. She staggered as if she couldn't stay on her feet. But still, she continued to swing her sword and practice. Amon wondered, why is she pushing herself so hard? So that's why she's always sleeping during the day. She's been secretly practicing her swordsmanship all night. He stood there watching her train for a long time. Many questions were forming in Amon's mind, but in the end, he decided to turn and leave. I have so many questions. But right now, it's best to pretend I saw nothing. A few days later, at the Amanite Academy, a voice called out in the academy, Are you the headmaster? Anarin turned around cheerfully. Yes, that's right. What brings you all here? The person before her left her speechless. She stammered, You. A deep, imposing voice boomed, Where is Professor Amandrake right now? Amon was sitting at his desk, buried under a messy pile of documents, deep in thought. It's been a month since I became a teacher at this academy. He cheerfully adjusted his clothes. I've only ever thought about escaping this godforsaken place. But from now on, I have to face reality. I'll try to teach these talented students like their professor. With their skills, they're sure to do great things. If that really happens, I'll benefit quite a bit from it. Thinking this, Amon stroked his chin excitedly. After all, what is success? Just follow your successful connections and you'll achieve it. Suddenly, Anarin burst in from outside. She cried out in a panic, Professor Amon! Her sudden appearance made him jump. Could you knock before entering? She explained, flustered. I'm sorry. There's a visitor here who wants to see you. Eamon was puzzled. A visitor? Though confused, Amon decided to go to the reception room with her. Anarin. His face froze when he saw the unexpected guest. That kid. Before him, Zaman was approaching, his wounds still not fully healed, the one who had victory snatched from him by Khloe. The same deep, gruff voice from earlier rang out again. You must be Professor Amandrake of the Amanite Academy, correct? A tall, imposing man with a friendly demeanor extended his hand and introduced himself. A pleasure to meet you. I am Raymond Namark, Zamon's grandfather. Eamon was shocked by this man's appearance. And one of the Empire's 4 great swordsmen, the Heavenly Sword King, Raymond. He immediately took the man's outstretched hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I am the second son of Baron Drake. The two of them laughed and talked cheerfully as if they were old acquaintances. For Amon, this was a great opportunity. I don't even know why someone like him would come to see me. He thought to himself, but this is the perfect chance to make a good impression. A new breakthrough to leave this wretched academy. Heavenly Sword King Raymond, one of the Empire's 4 great swordsmen, an important pillar of the Empire. Eamon was ecstatic. I can't believe someone like him came here for me. He could feel the aura of success. The man patted Zamon's head while saying excitedly, The way that student Khloe defeated my grandson was quite impressive. So I wanted to come here and see her professor with my own eyes. Raymond's presence made Eamon overjoyed. And what's more, he holds me in high regard. He thought to himself, he's only right about that part. After all, for the benefit of my students, I have... Eamon recalled the training sessions. He chased after the kids, shouting, "A sound mind and a sound body." The two kids ran for their lives. "We'll run properly. Please stop following us." Not only that, but he also taunted them. "Am I too fast for you? You can't even hit me!" Remembering those things, Amon still felt it was nothing. Outwardly, he remained polite. "You think too highly of me, sir. I was only giving the girl some guidance." Hearing his answer, Renben was intrigued. "You're quite humble. It seems I've met the right person today. From the way you teach your student, it seems you're a swordsman yourself," he pressed. "Am I right?" "I can't sense a single drop of magical energy in you." Flustered, Eamon denied it. "I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. I don't teach the children swordsmanship. I simply teach them the path of hard work." Amon's confession made Renben's face fall. Seeing he looked unhappy, Amon wondered, what's with that reaction? Renben whispered into his nephew's ear, "Zay, this isn't what you told me about." Mon also whispered an explanation, but they clearly called him Professor. He was lost in thought for a long moment, then decided to make a request. "In that case, would you mind calling the person who teaches Khloe swordsmanship here?" Phil was called over. Still stunned, she stammered her introduction. "I am Slet of the Phil family. It is a great honor to meet you, Heavenly Sword King Renben." Hearing her introduction, Renben silently assessed her. So she's from the Phil family, huh? If so, she must have extensive teaching experience. However, upon serious consideration, he had his doubts. But at best, she's a sword expert. "But I heard that the Phil family doesn't allow any family member to leave until they've become a sword master." Meanwhile, Phil was still looking around, bewildered. "Why would someone of such a high status want to meet me?" Renben continued to size up the young woman before him. "However, her magical energy is quite similar to someone I've met before. Marcus Phil. Why don't I test her?" He suddenly made a demand. "As one who walks the path of the sword, surely you wouldn't dare refuse a duel with me, would you?" Of course, Phil didn't dare refuse Renben's request. She hastily led the way. "Of course not. I'll take you to the training grounds." Seeing the two of them leave, Eamon was dejected. "I knew it. What other direction could I have expected my life to go in?" Eamon couldn't form the connection he wanted to leverage. A moment later, they both arrived at the training grounds. The battle between them had already begun. Phil collapsed to her knees, using her sword to support her exhausted body. Renben looked down from above. He asked, "Is that all?" She struggled to get back up. "Not yet," Renben thought to himself. "Just as I thought. She's a sword expert, nothing more, nothing less, that's all. It makes sense. The Phil family would never teach their secret techniques to an outsider. There's no way she could have taught the kid anything more special." At that moment, Phil stood up, ready to continue the fight. Renben spoke as he took out a small branch. "I will show you one final move with this branch. Before the match ends." Phil replied, "Yes, sir." The moment she finished speaking, Renben moved like a flash of lightning. With just the branch in hand, Renben unleashed a series of lightning-fast strikes, leaving Phil completely unable to keep up. He finished the chain of attacks with a thrust that grazed past her eye. Renben's strike left Phil frozen in place, unable to do anything. She was completely powerless to resist. He gently advised her, "From now on, start training diligently." Phil stared at the branch still pointed right before her eyes and replied, "Thank you, sir." Renben turned and left the arena, leaving a trembling Phil to collapse on the spot. Just then, Eamon brought Khloe before Renben. He asked, "Is this the little girl who defeated Zaman?" Eamon introduced her. "Yes, sir. Her name is Khloe." He stared intently at Khloe, frightening the little girl. He then silently remarked, "As someone from the Aran Highland Kingdom, she must have great stamina and endurance, so it's not due to training, but innate talent." Right after that, he said nothing more and turned to leave. "Ammon, was it? I must be going now. Please tell the headmaster for me that it was a pleasure to meet her." Ammon politely said his farewells, adding a few words of praise. "Ah, yes. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to witness your magnificent swordsmanship, sir." As he was leaving, he muttered, "Right, magnificent." Suddenly, Renben stopped. It was as if he had noticed something in Ammon's words. Renben asked again, "What did you say? Magnificent swordsmanship?" Eamon cheerfully replied, "Yes, sir." Renben knew one thing for sure. To a normal person, it would just look like waving a branch around a few simple times. He immediately asked, What part of it did you find magnificent? Ammon didn't hesitate to answer. You changed its trajectory about 36 times. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. But your center of gravity didn't shift one bit, and then you finished it with a final thrust. How could that not be magnificent? Behind him, Khloe wondered, did you see all that? Boris shook his head. No. Hearing his analysis, Renben stopped walking. He proposed, I need to have a discussion with you. The offer left Ammon stunned. Huh? So suddenly? I don't even know how to hold a sword. How could I? Renben didn't care. He handed Ammon a branch and requested, let's have a light match. Ammon couldn't grasp the situation. You're giving this to me? He tried to refuse. But for me, it's not that easy, Renben insisted. What a shame. And here I thought you were someone with a special talent. Ammon still flatly refused. I'm sorry to have disappointed you, sir. He thought to himself, as if I have the guts to challenge a great master. Oh, really? Well, I packed my bags and left that place a long time ago. Rainbow looked at Phil with pity. Your colleague over there is quite pitiful, too. Ammon agreed. Yes, I agree. In a corner, Phil was curled up, crying. She was crying non-stop. Raymond poked her with a tree branch. Hey, did the little lady croak? Khloe stopped him. Don't you dare bully Professor Sloth over there. Rainbow was still speaking. I really must ask the headmaster about hiring people like you as teachers. Ammon replied politely. He is kind, I agree with that, sir. But I'm not that kind of easygoing person. I hope you will reconsider, sir. He scoffed. You think I'll change my mind? I'm certain that even if the students are nothing special. Before he could finish, Rainbow was suddenly attacked by Ammon. He luckily dodged the first blow. On the other side, the two students exclaimed, Professor Ammon! He was angry. I'll overlook anything except messing with my livelihood. Ammon swung his arm. With just a small tree branch, he ripped through the air, creating a blow of terrifying power. He struck Rainbow right on the back of the neck. He couldn't avoid this blow and cried out in pain. After dealing with it so quickly, Ammon braced himself, suspicious. I can't believe the Sword King could be taken down with just a tree branch. He wondered to himself, is this guy a fake? Meanwhile, the scene became extremely chaotic. Raymond panicked. Sir! Boris put his ear to Rainbow's chest. He's dead, Khloe dazedly asked. Professor Ammon, what do we do now? Ammon reassured the kids. He and the three of them carried Rainbow on their shoulders, saying as they walked, Don't worry, you guys, he's just an imposter. All right, this whole scam ends here. We can't let him die here. Even if he's a fake, let's just carry him outside. Khloe tried to carry him. The little girl wondered, Professor Ammon, the imposter juice is coming out of his mouth. He explained, That's just drool, Khloe. Ammon looked visibly pleased and thought to himself, I might even get a reward for catching the fake Sword King. In the distance, Phil had stopped crying. She stirred and sat up after witnessing the entire event. Phil looked at Ammon with a bewildered expression. Inside Anarin's office, her scream echoed, A reward? What the hell are you talking about? Ammon was forced to kneel in the room, able to only let out a few groans. Anarin was still angry. I've met him before. Ammon still wasn't allowed to stand up. He asked with difficulty, Headmaster, are you sure? Anarin yelled, Shut up! While the two were arguing, Rainbow finally woke up, holding his head. My head, she hurriedly asked. Sir Rainbow, you're awake. Anarin fearfully approached and explained, I am so sorry. I'll make sure Professor Ammon is punished for his disrespectful behavior towards you. Please forgive us. Unexpectedly, he reassured her. It's all right. This isn't anyone's fault. Anarin didn't understand. Huh? Finally, everyone sat down together. Rainbow recounted the story. I was testing his skills when that happened. He offered his judgment of Ammon. You may not have experience with swordsmanship, but you possess immense, pure physical strength. Receiving his praise, Ammon, though confused, replied, Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Rainbow continued, but from his hand a small ray of light began to emanate. Then, the light grew into a giant orb carrying tremendous energy. Ammon stared in astonishment at the energy orb. This is the holy aura of the blade, a signature technique exclusive to sword masters. Only now did he understand that he was truly the Sword King. Anarin was indignant. I told you he was the real deal. Rainbow seriously explained Ammon's power to him. What you have is pure physical strength. when facing the Empire's knights who use mana. And with the swordsmanship they've honed through relentless training, you will always be at a disadvantage. Therefore, I have a proposition for you. Would you like to learn swordsmanship from me? His unexpected offer left Ammon speechless. He began to imagine the wonderful prospects ahead. The title of Disciple of the Sword King. If I can develop my skills with special and outstanding abilities on the battlefield, success will come to me in no time. Just thinking about it, Ammon immediately accepted without hesitation. This disciple eagerly awaits your guidance, Master. All right. I will recite the oath of loyalty now. You just have to repeat after me. In another scene, Raymond grabbed an entire plate of cakes from the table and shoved them straight into his mouth. Honorin asked worriedly, "Do you want some more cookies, dear?" After getting Ammon's agreement, Rainbow asked him to repeat, "I, as the disciple of the Sword King, will always be devoted and dedicated to the way of the sword." He quickly repeated it verbatim. "I, as the disciple of the Sword King, will always be devoted and dedicated to the way of the sword." Rainbow continued, "I swear to renounce material desires and the cravings of the world to focus only on my training." Ammon also repeated, "I swear to renounce material desires and the cravings of the world." Suddenly, halfway through the sentence, he stopped. Ammon thought for a moment, wondering to himself, "What?" Ammon asked with a look of surprise, "What did you say?" Redband frowned. "Didn't you hear me? I swear to forsake all material desires and worldly cravings to focus solely on my training." He wearily rubbed his head. "Could you give me some time to think?" He gave you a sharp glare, didn't he? The more Ammon looked, the more his head hurt. It was so chaotic earlier that I completely missed it. Why does one of the 4 Grand Knights of the Empire look so filthy? Renben looked at him quizzically. "Is there something on my face?" He picked up the teacup from the table. "I was just wondering, what is your title?" The man pondered for a moment before answering, "Title? That's all just for appearances. The Emperor once offered to grant me a title, but I refused it on the spot." Ammon immediately shot up to his feet in protest. "Why would you refuse it?" Anarin quickly grabbed the hem of his robe. "Professor Ammon, your true feelings are showing," he pressed on. "Well then, what about your fortune?" Renben replied with the same indifference. "What meaning do those damned pieces of paper hold? A small plot of land to practice my sword and a house to rest in is all I need." Suddenly, he yelled, But listen. If you, as my disciple, ever dare to harbor thoughts like that, I'll send you straight to heaven with a single swing of my sword. Burn that into your mind." Ammon replied, startled. "You can't do that!" Ammon held his teacup with trembling hands. "Wait a minute. I'm just now realizing it. Raymond has been eating cookies non-stop since we got here. He hasn't stopped for a single second." Holding a cookie in each hand, Raymond asked, "Do you have any other kinds of cookies like these?" Ammon belatedly realized this kid has been eating cookies for a very long time. This old man. Can he not even afford to feed his own grandson? Renben turned and pinched his grandson's ear. "You little brat, your greed knows no bounds." The boy squeezed his eyes shut. "But I'm so hungry." Ammon continued to observe him. "What's more, the kid's been dressed like a commoner ever since the tournament, even though he's the disciple of a great swordmaster. If I get mixed up with these people, I'm finished." At that thought, he quickly stood up. "Excuse me." Then he bolted. "I need to use the restroom." Anarin and Renben called out at the same time, "Professor Ammon? Disciple, where are you going?" As Ammon rushed away, his wallet fell from his pocket, dropping to the ground. While searching for his wallet, Ammon asked, "How much is it?" The other person replied gently, "Yes, sir. The total is 20 coins. He continued patting both of his pockets, but still couldn't find it. "Where's my wallet?" he asked sheepishly. "Can I put it on a tab?" He hesitated before stepping outside. Where the hell could it have fallen? Renben held out the wallet. "Here it is." Ammon turned, beaming. "My wall." He stopped short, startled by the face in front of him. The man laughed right at him. "Ha ha, I can't believe you're so careless." Ammon was stunned. "Why are you still here? And what's with those clothes?" Renben replied nonchalantly. "Well, I've decided to stay and work as a gatekeeper for this academy." That night, Ammon lay in bed, unable to sleep. He kept thinking about what had happened today. That old man. Ammon had asked him again, why? Renben had laughed even louder than before. "The gatekeeper position was open, so I decided to take the job temporarily." Ammon pointed a finger straight at him. "You're someone with no earthly attachments to this world. So why are you forcing yourself to stay here? Just go back to your mountain." Renben closed his eyes, feigning seriousness. Don't you worry about me, but do you really think Jay should go back to that place? Amon paused and asked, What? This time the man was genuinely serious as he explained, Jay is a swordsman now. I don't need to look after him every second of the day. Besides, isn't it time he received a proper education for his age? Amon grew even more anxious. That means... Don't tell me. Renben gave him a thumbs up. That's right. Jay will be enrolling here too. But the tuition here is quite expensive, so I decided to get a job at this place. Amon sighed wearily, looking as if he'd aged 10 years in an instant. Renben smiled brightly and gestured towards him. You may not know anything about swordsmanship, but you have a solid education. That's why I'm sure you'll teach the boy very well. I'm counting on you, Professor Amon. Lying in bed, Amon gritted his teeth and squeezed his eyes shut. Who could have known that raising Khloe so well would lead to a consequence like this? Then he got out of bed to relieve his stress. I should drink some water to calm down. The next class isn't until the flag ceremony next week, so no one should be here at this hour. Who is it? The door opened and a face appeared. Potato Amon jumped back in surprise. Oh my God, my heart just leaped out of my chest. Why are you still here so late? And what's this about potato? Vice Principal Breast raised her hand and quickly explained, I smelled the delicious scent of raw potatoes coming from this room. You have potatoes in there, don't you? If you dare deny it, I'll break down the door and rush in. Amon quickly cut her off. I'll get them myself. You stay right here and wait. My mom gave me a bag of potatoes to bring with me on my way back to the academy. It's been so long since I've been home. Make sure you bring this from our hometown with you, okay? Amon looked at the sack, which was as big as a person, in front of him. He asked doubtfully, Mom, you didn't put a person in this sack, did you? For Amon, this was a refuge from his tiring life away from home. I can't believe I have to share this sacred place. Vice Principal, there are 10 potatoes here. How about 5 for each of us? Even though she was freeloading, she was still very demanding. No. We'll share them one by one until we drop dead. Suddenly a voice called out from nearby. What are you two doing? Amon turned to see Marion. He smiled warmly. Oh, Senior Marion, we were just about to boil some potatoes for a late-night snack. He was walking with a slight limp from being drunk. Are those potatoes from your hometown? He asked generously. Yes, would you like to have some with us? Marion laughed with extreme delight. Ha ha ha, of course. Breast gnashed her teeth in anger. Another mouth to feed? Another voice chimed in. Peekaboo, what kind of party are you all having at this hour? Amon looked over. Principal Boris, Khloe, why is everyone here? The two children drooled as they looked at the roasting potatoes. They must be delicious. Anarin placed a hand on the children's shoulders. I saw you two playing outside at night. I was about to punish you, but then you two said you saw a fire in the training room. So this is a potato party, huh? Grace shot them a sharp glare. We don't have many potatoes left. You can only have a taste. The number of mouths to feed had tripled in an instant. It didn't stop there. Another voice called out, What's this? Potatoes? Is there a share for me? Amon looked at her and answered right away. Senior Slot, there aren't many left. She had just returned from her secret nightly sword practice, looking completely exhausted. Her face was pale and she was drooling. Yet she still said, Don't worry, I won't eat much. Breast showed her clear dissatisfaction. Won't eat much? What's that dripping from your mouth? Raybent and his nephew Raymond followed the scent to where they were. Where is this delicious smell coming from? Brett jumped and turned around. More? She immediately shot to her feet and ordered, Professor Amon, bring out all the remaining potatoes. No, give them all to me. Amon got angry. I was wondering why you were being so calm. You've finally shown your true colors. The argument went on endlessly. Breast continued to threaten, Silence, hand over all the potatoes. Amon still refused? No, I won't give them to you. What are you going to do about it? After arguing for a while, Amon grabbed her hair. You crazy dark elf hag. Best screamed in pain. My hair! In the end, Amon brought out the whole bag of potatoes. The potatoes in the pot began to cook. Breast sobbed. My potatoes? Amon asked helplessly. Since when were they your potatoes? He took the potatoes out of the pot and started sharing them with everyone. All right. Anyway, they're boiled now. They're piping hot, so blow on them before you eat. Renben and Raymond lifted them to their mouths, blew on them, and took the first bites. Both were surprised. What is this? This is a potato? As for Bless, after the first bite, she was crying and laughing with satisfaction. Ammon also nibbled on the potato in his hand. This is a specialty from my hometown. We're very proud of them, you know. Rabent glanced at Ammon. Now I understand why you're so strong. He asked while chewing why. He explained seriously. If you eat food filled with so much magic power like this every day, then it's only natural that your body would gradually adapt to the magic power. Ammon pondered for a moment. So this is why so many people from my hometown are so strong. But there's nothing special about them, he recalled. These potatoes were just grown from seeds I recently bought in the city. Ammon signaled to the owner, I'll take 3 bags of these. The man cheerfully replied, You got it, coming right up. Amon thought to himself, could it be that the soil quality here is just that good? Anyway, let's just focus on eating. Slot stared intently at the piece of potato in his hand, then her gaze shifted up to its owner. It was only then that Ammon noticed her stare. He panicked. What is that look? Slot suddenly spoke up. Ammon, marry me. Hearing this, he spat out all the potato in his mouth, which flew right onto the face of Brez, who was sitting next to him. Thinking he'd misheard, Amon asked again, What did you just say? Slot calmly repeated herself. I said, marry me. As she spoke, her face reddened slightly, but Amon was still in shock. What the hell is she up to? Seeing his look of disbelief, Slot stressed it one more time. I said, marry me. The crowd around them, all eating potatoes, suddenly turned to look. Jaws dropped as they stared at the two of them, except for Raymond, who didn't seem to care. He just kept happily eating his potatoes. Renben blushed at the proposal scene. A flashback. Oh, to be young again. Marion couldn't hold it in any longer. He burst out laughing, turning to tease them both. You two? Getting married? Ha, ha, ha! Anarin was bewildered. Professor Marion. Good Lord, is it really that funny? He continued to laugh. Isn't Slot way too good for a guy like him? I thought I was the only one who felt that way. Ammon grabbed the man's wine bottle with a threatening expression, which finally made Marion stop laughing. He and Slot broke away from the crowd and started walking around the academy. She asked him, How much do you know about the Marquee family? Ammon held up a finger and began. Their family's swordsmanship is truly incredible, and the heirs are all masters. That's all I know. Slot, who was listening beside him, added, There's one more important thing. Our family has always valued its reputation. They don't allow us to go out before we become a swordmaster. Ammon asked in surprise, What? He started to wonder, based on the skills she had shown back then. She has to be at least an expert swordsman. If they don't let anyone out who hasn't reached the master level, then why is she here when she's only an expert? Slot looked at his face, cutting off his train of thought. I know what you're thinking. Ammon gave a forced laugh. I wasn't thinking anything. Slot began to open up and tell him about her family. The truth is, my family, they never cared. Or paid any attention to me in all the years I was growing up. Ammon looked at her sadly. He'd never seen her like this before. But then her expression quickly changed. From sad to cheerful just like that? What's with the sudden change? Ammon scratched his head. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Slot let out a sigh. It's fine. I've gotten used to it by now. No matter how hard I tried, I could never become a swordmaster. That's surely why they treated me so horribly. But then one day my father told me to come to the Amanat Academy. I thought they would just pretend I didn't exist. Still, I tried to resist, saying that I couldn't violate the family rules, but he told me not to worry about that. After sending me away, they never even tried to check on me, say, or get any news about me. But they don't need someone as weak as me, so they just wanted me to fend for myself. However, when I was eating that potato, I had an epiphany. I thought, if I just had more of these potatoes, maybe I could show my family what I can do. And considering the circumstances, I bet they won't even care if I marry you. Ammon gave her a thumbs up in agreement. I'm not in the same situation, but I can understand how you feel. Slot just went, oh, is that right? She continued her story. Only the firstborn son gets to inherit the family. I'm the second child, so I get nothing. My family might care about me, but ultimately I'm not like you, having to find a way to survive on my own, Ammon said, then asked skeptically, Anyway, that's not the real reason you asked me to marry you, is it? So I can give you potatoes, you get stronger, and then you get revenge on your family? Slot casually replied, That's right. She looked up at the sky. A political marriage? Isn't that the kind of marriage? That all noble families have? Aemon continued. So what do I get out of it? Slot confidently struck a pose. Take a guess. You get a beautiful wife like me. Aemon scoffed. I'm more interested in inner beauty than looks. Slot continued trying to persuade him. Anyway, suppose I eat your potatoes and become stronger. And return to my family, I could even win the War of Succession. And you know what that means? From then on, the Fjord family will be mine. Aemon listened intently. Wait a minute. You mean... Slot gave him a look and said, Exactly. Do you really think I can handle all the work that the head of a family has to do? I'm busy sleeping all day, every day. Of course, I'll keep a little bit of power, but you can have the majority of it. Aemon asked. And what about managing the finances? Slot said casually. Naturally, I'm terrible with money. Aemon felt like he had just heard the magic word that would change his life. He clenched his fists, his face overcome with pure joy. Embezzlement. The most beautiful, magnificent word in the entire dictionary. Slot added to her persuasion. Plus, if you become a member of the family, you can learn our techniques. Aemon was now completely lost in his own fantasy. The power of a marquee, the wealth, the swordsmanship, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. He grabbed her hand tightly. My lady, let's go and tell my father-in-law. We'll deal with our marriage in the morning. The next morning, the sun finally broke through after the rain. Aemon dressed formally, his hands clenched in determination. Time to say goodbye to his impoverished past. Incidentally, Sloth had told him the day before, I'm going to the hair salon before we leave tomorrow. Aemon walked up to the salon she had mentioned. For someone who usually just sleeps in a sleeping bag, what would make a person like her want to come here? He went to the window, shifting his position again and again to get a look inside. The hairdresser styling Sloth's hair looked out with a scornful expression. What's wrong with that man outside? Yeah, I even have the closed sign up. Why is he wearing an all-black suit like he's going to a funeral? Sloth spoke softly. Ah, yes, he's with me. The hairdresser misunderstood her words. Is that so? He's your servant, milady? Aemon was still waiting by the window. What's taking so long? Why hasn't she come out yet? Did she drop dead in there or something? This was the mindset of someone who had been waiting outside for 3 hours. The hairdresser stepped out and opened the door. You there, the servant? Do you need something? He was surprised and scratched his head. Have you seen a blonde woman with messy hair who looks half dead around here? Sloth walked out, annoyed. Who are you calling blonde, messy, and half dead? I'm almost done. Just wait a little longer. Aemon looked at her without recognizing her. She looked at him proudly. Don't tell me you don't recognize me, Aemon exclaimed. Oh my God! Sloth covered her mouth, hiding a smile. Well, it makes sense. I don't usually pay much attention to my appearance. So of course I'd look different when I actually try. Aemon began to analyze his life-changing strategy. We're on the same side now, in the same boat. I should try to get on her good side as much as possible. He smiled brightly and showered her with flowery compliments. Now that I look closely, you just had your hair and makeup done. No wonder you suddenly look so much more beautiful. Sloth confidently flipped her hair. Now you get it, don't you? Let's see who's out of whose league now. Aemon replied immediately. Of course, I'm the one who's not worthy of you. The hairdresser quickly interrupted. I'm sorry to cut in while you're talking, but you, the servant, could you please step outside? We still have some things to do. What? Aemon was surprised. Servant? Sloth whispered into the girl's ear. He's not my servant, he's my fiancé. At that moment, she finally realized her terrible misunderstanding. She bowed deeply. I apologize. I am truly sorry. Now it was Aemon's turn to misunderstand. What? Did she tell that woman I'm her servant? The hairdresser quickly tried to smooth things over. No wonder he's so handsome. Sloth pursed her lips. Him? From Aemon's perspective, Sloth was looking down on him. Wait a little longer. A servant, of course. What was I even expecting? Just because she's prettier doesn't mean her personality has gotten any better. The hairdresser asked Sloth, So when is the wedding? She replied calmly, I don't know. Probably tomorrow, in the city of Lindsley. Sloth began to explain. This is the city of Batista Linslayfield, under my father's control. Although before I was kicked out of the family, I never had much of a chance to get to know this place well. Aemon's eyes lit up as he looked around. I can't believe he manages an entire city this big. Don't worry, Senior. In the future, this city will be nothing more than a toy in our hands. Sloth pursed her lips. You really only want this, don't you? Ammon replied casually, That's how all political marriages work. The two of them arrived in front of the marquee's mansion. Sloth continued to instruct him. In front of my father. I mean, the marquee. You should stay as quiet as possible. Ammon was surprised. Huh? Why? Sloth shook her head and continued to explain. He doesn't like listening to others. No matter how busy the family is, he still regularly gathers all 13 swords of the family. We have to gather regularly. Ammon noticed something strange in her words. He asked, 13 swords? She explained, Yes, the 13 best swordsmen of the family. The marquee is number 1. The remaining 12 positions belong to my older brothers. Ammon scratched his chin, puzzled. 12 older brothers? I didn't understand what she meant, until 13 pairs of eyes were staring right at me. Ammon looked ahead, bewildered. They're the Field family, right? He shifted his gaze to the man sitting in the center with a deathly sharp stare. So this is my father-in-law, one of the 4 great swordsmasters of the Batista Empire, Lindsley Field, the current head of the Marquis Field family. Sloth stood in front of him. Father, how have you been? I came today to discuss something important. The man's expression remained displeased as he glanced at Ammon. Sloth continued her presentation. While I was teaching at the Ammonite Academy, I met someone with whom I want to build a future. I wanted to tell you this, Father. Let me introduce him. This is the son of Viscount Drake, the man I want to be with and build a future. Ammon placed a hand on his chest and bowed his head respectfully. It is a great honor to meet you, Lord Marquis. I am Ammon Drake, from the Drake family. Sloth calmly continued. Although this marriage has not yet received your permission, Father, I hope you can give us your blessing. The whole table was grimly silent, and the room fell quiet. She looked down at the floor and ground her teeth. They weren't listening at all, so the words of the weak are not to be heard. What was I even expecting from this family? With that thought, she immediately turned and walked away. Ammon watched her retreating back in panic. What the hell, Mom? Why is she suddenly leaving like that? Yeah. If she leaves now, what am I supposed to do here alone? Marcus stubbed out the cigarette in his hand. He said, You said you came from the family of Baron Drake? He quickly nodded. Yes, that's right. He repeated his name once more. Baron Drake. I see. All right, Lancelot, go! The moment the words were out, Lancelot immediately charged forward. Die! Ammon stumbled back in a panic. What? Why is he suddenly... A flurry of incredibly fast punches were thrown. He had to use all his strength to dodge. Lancelot continued to attack relentlessly. Are these your last words? Ammon managed to block a few of his blows. What the hell? He cut him off and attacked again. Oh, I'll make sure your last words come as a surprise. Lancelot threw a decisive punch and shouted, By order of Baron Drake! Ammon was bewildered, his mind racing with a million thoughts. What should I do? I came here to get their approval for our marriage, and now he's attacking me. Fine. Finally, he decided to act in self-defense, landing a counterattack right in his stomach. Lancelot immediately fell to the ground, unconscious. A murmur began to spread through the room. To think he took down Lancelot in a single blow! Well, he was the weakest among us anyway. All right. Cancelo stood up. Then let me go. Marcus, his expression still furious, said, We can count on Cancelo. Ammon threw another punch. He immediately collapsed. The crowd made another excuse. Come to think of it, he also went down in one hit. He was the second weakest in the family, after all. Marcus rested his chin on his hand and continued to give orders. 11. Benslow. I'm counting on you guys. Benslow scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. Ha, of course. One punch is all I'll need for that little punk. Ammon threw another punch to end this third round. The crowd hesitated again. Like I said, he was the third weakest among us anyway. Another one quickly turned and whispered to Marcus, Father, it'll be my turn next. Maybe we should use swords? He immediately refused. No, we can't just go showing off our family's skills to someone like him. Meanwhile, Ammon looked at Nin, who was lying on the ground. Right, but I'm faster. The crowd burst into an uproar. What are you doing? Nin, hurry up and attack him, he mumbled in reply. I think I have a stomachache. A cold voice rang out. Ammon Drake. He flinched, breaking out in a sweat. Why do I suddenly feel so suffocated? Marcus clenched his fist so tightly he broke the chair he was sitting on. He stood up, his voice menacing. To be able to take down 4 knights of the Phil family with just one punch, you must have a death wish. Don't you? Ammon felt so wronged he wanted to cry. This marriage, is it worth risking my life for? He stepped forward, towering over him and glancing down. If you have any last words, I'll hear them. Ammon looked at the difference in their builds, his heart pounding in panic. He's huge. Even the glow of his magic field is completely different. He stammered, asking, Marcus, Phil, why? Are you doing this to me? He cut him off coldly. Are those your last words? He quickly explained, No, it's a question. Marcus stood and pointed accusingly at him. A question? You really don't know what you've done wrong? Ammon fell to his knees, begging. No, Sir Marcus Phil, please tell me what I did wrong. He was trembling with rage. How dare you entrap my beautiful, lovely daughter? And with your dirty schemes, and now you claim you don't know what you've done wrong? Ammon looked up, utterly shocked, as if he couldn't believe his ears. What? Marcus continued to explode with anger. What? An immoral person like you laying your filthy claws on my daughter, my fragile, weak daughter. Phil's brothers also began to join in the criticism. That's right, Father. How dare this punk touch our cute little sister? Our sister, you don't stand a chance. The words about daughter and sister continued to pour out passionately. She may be my daughter.
But she is so cute and lovely.
You feel that way too, Father? Yes, son, I do. Every time I see my sister, it's like I'm frozen in place. Ammon felt like he'd just had a heart attack. He put a hand to his chest and sighed in relief. These people, were they silent before because they were just stunned by Slot's presence? The atmosphere suddenly softened when she was mentioned. Everyone started chatting happily. It's been so long since I've seen her. She gets more beautiful every day. Yes, I was surprised too. She's the spitting image of our mother. Ammon was lost in thought. Are they really this doting on her? Suddenly, Slot Phil threw the door open. Everyone turned in surprise. Ammon quickly asked, Where have you been? Slot was silent for a moment. Father, brothers, I heard everything you all just said. Until now, I didn't even know you all felt that way. Marcus, moved, stood up. He and her brothers rushed towards her with their arms outstretched. Our lovely Slot! My dear sister! She also ran towards them. Father! Brothers! A heartwarming family scene unfolded. Marcus and his other sons embraced her, sobbing. We're so sorry for making you misunderstand. Slot was also moved and forgave them. No, it's okay. From now on, I'll do everything I can. No, you don't have to do anything strenuous. As long as my daughter is always healthy and happy, that's more than enough for me. Watching from the outside, Amon was also moved. He looked up. My ambitious marriage proposal has failed. After the family shared their warm feelings and had to return to their daily lives, Ammon and Slot left the mansion together. He turned and asked Senior Slot, Why do you have to go back to the academy? Couldn't you have stayed at the Marquis's mansion? There are no more misunderstandings now. Slot placed both hands behind her head and walked leisurely. They say the path of the Sword Saint is difficult and more prone to corruption than the world thinks. My father and brothers don't want me to walk such a path. They let me go so I could have a free life, but I will continue to strive in my own way. By the way, when I left, my youngest brother gave me a note. Come back to Lancelot sometimes. He should have said it himself. At this, she turned to look at his sad expression and asked, But why do you look so down? Are you sad because you couldn't marry me? Amanda's face was grim. Please stop this nonsense. My path to success has completely collapsed. How can I be happy? They say that if a dragon can't move your heart, neither can a lizard. Every time I see you, Senior, I feel like my chance at success has completely slipped away. Slot was angered by his words, but she forced a strained smile and clutched the letter in her hand. She then hit him hard on the head. At the academy, Principal Anarin picked up a cherry blossom petal. She sadly read the letter in her hand. How am I supposed to tell Professor Ammon this? Amon had returned to the academy and began his report. So, we visited Marquis Pieux and cleared up all the misunderstandings. This is why communication is so important. Anarin mumbled an agreement, but her eyes never left the stack of documents she was holding. Ammon noticed this strange behavior. He looked directly into her eyes and asked, Is something wrong? Why do you look so dejected? Anarin looked up with a depressed expression. About that, A loud scream echoed through the academy, startling even the groundskeeper. Amen held up the paper, his hands trembling. The Mango King farm has gone bankrupt. Bankruptcy notice for the Mango King farm. Due to natural disasters, including floods, light winds, and historically unprecedented rainfall, your Mango King farm project has gone bankrupt. Because of the damn ritual you performed to pray for a bountiful harvest, there was a historic flood so severe that even the spirit world was affected. Therefore, I demand compensation for this. And I hope that your future is ravaged by floods. Anarin tried to justify herself. But that's the dance from my hometown. It works there. Why were they growing mangoes, giant mangoes at that? Ammon replied grimly. I understand. He scratched his head. How do you plan to compensate them? Unlike her earlier dejected state, Anarin started to brighten up. She told him cheerfully, It'll be fine, as long as no connection is found. Between the traditional elven dance for a bountiful harvest and this weather phenomenon, the Imperial investigation team won't take any action. Aemon was exasperated. You're so shameless, you know that? Anarin gave a sly grin. She clasped her hands and continued, But with the 400 gold coins we have left, we can find another investment. He bowed his head and placed a hand on the table, retorting, What? That's nothing compared to the money we had when I first joined the academy. You had 4,900 gold coins back then. Anarin immediately said cheerfully, I have an idea. Aemon's expression hardened and he cut her off instantly. If you're about to mention snail racing, you'd better protect your head. She continued to plead, Professor Amon, come on, let's go see the snails. I already told you the snail races are only held once every 15 years. Aemon clenched his fist. So, what's your plan? Anarin cheerfully replied, Unicorn racing. A swift blow immediately landed on her head. You never change, do you? She clutched her head tightly. Is that supposed to be a compliment? He asked angrily, What do you think? Anarin started to hold up a stack of investment documents from a trading company. She asked cheerfully, Do you want to invest in a mysterious substance? That was just recently discovered? Investment proposal from the Merca Trading Company. Aemon helplessly turned away. That? Good grief. It's as if everything dug up from the ground is important. He began to flip through the papers she had given him, reading quickly. And so, this money will be allocated to all businesses and its product value will be assessed in the future. Ah, how ridiculous. It's because they know all of this is absurd. Even the person running the business gave it such a strange name for this black oil stuff. Was he trying to look cool or something? Ammon flipped to a page and flew into a rage. He slammed the stack of documents on the table and continued shouting, Petroleum! What the hell is this petroleum nonsense? There isn't a single decent investment option here. You should think of another plan instead of trying to increase your capital. First, let's think about the most fundamental issue. The Academy is an educational institution, right? And it encourages and nurtures the Empire's young talents. So every year they provide a generous and abundant financial grant to the academies. Anarin immediately countered. But since we've been recommended for suspension, we won't receive a single cent of that. Ammon immediately grasped the main point. Exactly. That's why I need your help. Worried, she asked back, What do you mean? He began to lay out his plan. I heard you're an old friend of the king. Anarin answered calmly, It's been about 55 years. So what? He continued to explain, Then there's only one, and only one answer. Bribe the king. Ammon began to smile sinisterly. Hearing this, she started to panic and refused. Bribe? My friend, don't joke about something like this. You don't think everyone is like you, do you? He continued to persuade her. Come on, your insight is important. You know what the king likes and dislikes, so you know how to invest in a bribe. Raymond, who was standing outside, heard the entire conversation. A bribery investment? His face was filled with bewilderment. Is this academy about to collapse? Honorin was now at the king's place. Amonis looked at the box of bananas in front of him with surprise. Wait, are these those famous dragon bananas? Why would you give me something so precious? Princess Anarin smiled and replied, With our friendship, what is this? Nothing at all. The king stirred his tea and continued to ask, But looking at you, it seems you have another intention. For example? Hearing this, Anarin broke into a sweat and turned her face away. She didn't dare to look him in the eye anymore. King Amonis's sharp gaze pierced right through her. Negotiating to cancel the Academy's suspension recommendation? Anarin gave a forced laugh. As expected. Your Majesty is so wise. The king replied cheerfully, Is there anything to hide in our friendship? To be honest, thinking of our friendship, I also want to stop the Academy's suspension. But considering the events of the past, I can't make that decision alone. Honorin replied dejectedly, I understand. Suddenly, Amonis shifted his gaze to the two children beside her. These kids look familiar. Did they participate in the recent competition? Honorin quickly answered him, Yes, that's right. Amonis began to think. I see, they're from Amonis Academy, all right. Considering the remarkable achievements of these students, I will speak with the council about retracting the suspension recommendation. She clasped her hands and jumped to her feet, her eyes sparkling as she asked, Really? King Amonis replied generously, Of course, Princess Anorin. She continued to thank him, raising her teacup. Don't mention it. Suddenly he smelled something. Anorin looked at him in surprise. Your Majesty? The two children were also startled and froze. Your Majesty? King Amonis was now on the ground, sniffing one spot, then leaping to another to sniff again. He ran around the room continuously. The scene was, to put it mildly, not very elegant. He looked up angrily. This scent! Ammon was outside the door, pressing his ear against it to listen. I wonder how things are going. That elf isn't very silver-tongued, but she holds an important position. Besides, they've been friends for 55 years. He might be annoyed to meet a member of my clan, but he's a wise king. As long as he doesn't see me, everything should be fine. Suddenly, the door burst open. King Amonis yelled, Found you! Startled, Ammon stumbled backward. He stammered, Your Majesty. The king pointed an angry finger at him and began to interrogate him. No wonder I could smell that disgusting scent of a drake. You're the mastermind behind this. Ammon trembled and asked, Mastermind, what do you mean? He continued his accusation. You're the one who tricked and forced Princess Anorin to come here and asked to have the suspension recommendation revoked, aren't you? Ammon's face darkened as he quickly refuted, Huh? I was just fulfilling my duties as a professor at the academy. Forced? Tricked? Anorin, along with Khloe and Boris, stood silently, looking towards the door. Professor Ammon, I can't believe he got caught. Ammon advised him, Your Majesty, please don't let your personal feelings affect your official duties. The king growled in anger. Queen Victoria was also hiding behind a distant wall, eavesdropping. He continued to explain. The insolence of the Drake clan in the past and this issue are completely different matters. Just as we demonstrated our talent in the competition, we have the ability to nurture these children whose talents were enough to catch your eye. But the Academy's current situation is just too desperate. Anorin, moved, raised a hand to her face. As expected of Professor Ammon, you're more of a principal than I am. The two children also shed tears as Professor Ammon continued his tale of woe. The children are starving because the Academy is bankrupt. The truth is, this morning's menu was meat soup. Furthermore, the lack of funding is disrupting the Academy's daily educational programs. And we don't even have the necessary training equipment to hold classes. This, too, was a lie, as he had already ordered another wooden sword for Slot. Yesterday, Ammon continued his presentation like a professional multi-level marketer. He placed a hand on his chest and continued, To me, teaching is more important than even being a member of the Drake family. In fact, the Academy's poor finances are the reason students are starving and being denied a proper education. That truly saddens me. He bowed deeply before King Amonist. Your Majesty, I hope that you will withdraw the request to suspend the Academy's operations. He gave a slight, all-too-perfect smile. The pride, conviction, and magnificent cry of an educator filled with kindness for his students. His opponent was a king who cherished students and valued education. I gave a great speech as an educator with conviction about teaching my students, so how could he possibly refuse? Contrary to what he thought, King Amonist was just scratching his arm, not listening at all. Ammon glared, enraged. He isn't even paying attention. The king replied lazily, You Drakes are all a bunch of loudmouths. So, is that all you have to say? Ammon continued to argue with him. Honestly, I'll make it simple for you. Why do you keep complaining to me about old matters that I don't even know about? The king raised his hand and pointed at him accusatorily. Look at you. You've finally shown your true rat-like colors. The king stuck out his tongue, taunting him. Why don't you try hitting me if you're so angry, huh? Ammon clenched his fists tightly. If only I could... Queen Victoria observed it all. She turned to the person next to her and asked, Kai, what do you think? The crown prince of the Ammonist Empire, Kaios, answered seriously, I'm betting on Drake's victory. The queen's face darkened as if she was about to punch him. Caius quickly corrected himself. I mean, about withdrawing the recommendation to suspend the Amonist Academy's operations, right? The queen simply replied, yes. Caius recalled Ammon's earlier appearance before his father. To me, teaching is more important than even being a member of the Drake family. It would be best to withdraw the proposal and reconsider. Even if there have been unfortunate incidents here in the past, we should still generously support outstanding students, he stated his opinion calmly. The queen agreed. I think so too. He glanced over in that direction. The Drake family has faced many hardships from my father, which is why someone as patient and merciful as him was born. The king was still provoking him at this point. You want to hit me, don't you? Go on. Do it, so I can have you executed. Ammon glared at him in anger, but he couldn't do anything. The queen continued, Speaking of which, I only met Bellio Drake twice, and I already felt like I was going insane. Bellio Drake, Ammon's grandfather. When Sanrio was the crown prince, they had countless conflicts. Then she turned to look at Ammon. This one seems rather polite compared to Bellio, that's for sure. Ammon was now trembling with anger. How could I dare lay a hand on someone as noble as your majesty? Caius looked at the queen seriously. That's why I want to end the ugly relationship between our two families, starting with my generation. She smiled gently. Very well. If that is what you wish. Then she cracked her knuckles and strode out. I'm going to settle this wild dog fight right here and now. Caius silently cheered from behind. Go get him, mother! Although the bribe was a reasonably distasteful move, we are still unable to withdraw the proposal. That was because the king had been beaten to a pulp, and the queen ordered us to return. Ammon walked into his classroom holding a stack of documents with a dejected look on his face. When did my life start getting so miserable? All right, kids, let's begin. He stopped in his tracks. Huh? Raymond, what's with that doll next to you? Ignoring the scornful looks from his classmates, Raymond hugged the doll beside him and retorted, It's not a doll. Ammon asked in surprise, Then what is it? The boy stroked its head and gave a creepy smile. It's me. The broom swept across the ground, gathering the fallen white petals into a neat pile. Renben was sweeping the yard when someone called out, Senior! When he saw Ammon, he burst out laughing and asked, What's this? Have you finally decided to become my disciple? Before he could finish, Ammon cut him off. I think your grandson is insane. Renben's whole body seethed with rage as if he were about to explode. He growled, Is that your idea of a challenge? Terrified by him, Ammon's face turned pale. He stammered in panic. No! Your grandson is hugging a teddy bear and saying it's him. Please, just hear me out. After he finished speaking, he looked with a slightly surprised expression at Renben, who had calmed down. You're here because of that, huh? Ah, that. The boy has a serious case of Prince syndrome. Ammon was so startled he blurted out, What? He moved closer to Renben and asked, full of curiosity, Then why isn't he carrying a mirror around instead of a teddy bear? He calmly explained. He did carry a mirror at first, but later on he made himself a teddy bear the same size as him and started carrying it everywhere. Ammon muttered, He made it himself? Yes, Renben sighed helplessly. He even makes a new one whenever he grows. I tried to gently take it away once and he started thrashing about like a fish out of water. Ammon found this strange, but I didn't see him carrying it during the competition, did I? Renben replied, I told him to hide his skills and identity at the time in an attempt to cure his condition.